twerking, and twerking is part of the revolution. We've been doing it. We're going to keep on doing it because we have and always will be the blueprint. Twerking is a deep, soulful, spiritual practice. It's hip opening. It's empowering. When performed as a mapuka, it's said to connect you to God. It's sacred. And now we're practicing that on mainstream stages. We're practicing that at home. And it's contributing to the liberation of women and people around the world. Twerking is good for humanity. 40 years ago, when Black and brown people in New York invented breakdancing, it was villainized. Mainstream media weaponized breakdancing by connecting it to gang activity and violence. As an art form and subculture, it wasn't taken seriously. Fast forward to today, breakdancing is now an Olympic sport. What will be the future of twerking? Russian ballet dancers are twerking. Have you seen it? They be like this. Y'all think I'm playing. They out there like, do. Can we clear Tchaikovsky? Will we see twerking as an Olympic sport one day? And will Black people still be part of it? I'm proud to be a twerk pioneer. I'm grateful for the asses that came before me. All hail Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, from Betty Boop to Buffy the Body. When I shake this ass, I do it for the culture, not the vulture. For me, twerking ain't a trend. My body is not a trend. I twerk for the strippers, for the video vixens, for the church ladies who shout, for the sex workers. I twerk because Black women are undeniable. I twerk for my ancestors, for sexual liberation, for my bitches, hey girl, because I can, because I know I look good. I twerk because it's unique to the Black experience. It's unique to my culture, and it means something real to me. I twerk because I'm talented. Because I'm sexual, but not to be sexualized. I twerk to own my power, to reclaim my Blackness, my culture. I twerk for fat Black women because being fat and Black is a beautiful thing. I twerk because it's as natural to me as breathing. Black women invented twerking, and twerking is part of the revolution. We've been doing it. We're going to keep on doing it because we have and always will be the blueprint. We twerk to remind ourselves we here and we ain't going nowhere. So, in a case of optimism, I twerk because it's as natural to me as breathing. Black women invented twerking, and twerking is part of the revolution. We've been doing it. We're going to keep on doing it because we have and always will be the blueprint. We twerk to remind ourselves we here and we ain't going nowhere. So, in a case of optimism.
Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Shout out to you for being here. Hand claps to you. Y'all know the drill. Like, share, subscribe. If you like what's going on here, get the message out there. This is kind of a last minute thing, but I did want to touch upon this already. What's going on, Eugene? I see some of you guys in the description, or some of y'all in the chat. What's going on? Good to see you guys. Y'all have to bear with me. I don't even know where my soundboard is. Like, I have a soundboard. I like to do little sound effects here, but I got a new computer and the app just went away. So y'all have to bear with me. I'm a little quiet over here. But anyways, I wanted to touch upon what I'm sure you guys have heard about by now is just this whole topic of twerking, and more specifically, the video that went viral, I think over the last couple of days, about some Black women who were twerking at an African, like, not even a slave site, but yeah. in Ghana. So a lot to unpack there. But before I get into it, I did want to play a little bit of context to you. If you guys weren't aware already, Lizzo, she did a TED Talk a few years back, specifically related to twerking, where she was trying to break down what twerking is about, why Black women see it as liberation, she literally talked about fighting for freedom or liberation, whatever that means. But basically, the whole point of the TED Talk was to not only talk about what it is, but essentially what it has represented and what it does represent for Black women. So y'all heard terms such as this is for the culture. My ancestors did this. This is African. This is liberation for me. This is a part of my bones. I twerk for the strippers. I twerk for the prostitutes. I twerk for the church mamas. I twerk for the tricks. She wanted a whole explanation as to why twerking is integral to the Black American female experience. And so I wanted to share that with you because in it, she said something to me that was really interesting where she was like, I twerk for the ancestors. Y'all heard that part? I don't know if y'all heard that part, but I tried to replay a little section of it, but she basically said, I twerk for the ancestors, end quote. And she went on to say, twerking isn't going anywhere. Y'all need to get used to it. Just like they was trying to talk about breakdancing and say that was some degenerate street hood dancing, whatever. And they're trying to demonize it, like back with the white media. They're trying to do the same for twerking. But her point was, nah, that's not going anywhere. Twerking is liberation. It is freedom. And Black women, we are the blueprint and we are bringing freedom. That's literally what she was talking about. So I wanted, twerk for the answers. So I wanted to play that for some context because I think when we start to talk about twerking and what it has become, it's important to understand the psychology behind how women justify doing it literally everywhere. Twerking at Walmart, twerking at gas stations, twerking at funerals, twerking on babies, and now more recently twerking on African grave sites. To me, that's completely and totally classless and completely and totally disrespectful on all levels. There is a time and a place. There is a season for everything. But for some reason, there is this idea out there that twerking is for every single situation at all times, 5 days a week, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And I disagree with that. And I personally think that twerking has done more to damage the image of Black women than anything else. If it was up to me, I would ban all twerking. If Shay Sade was president, I would ban twerking, or at least make twerking in certain public settings illegal and have there be some form of penalties or something associated with doing it. Because unfortunately, we live in this culture where there seems to be no understanding of protocol. There seems to be no understanding of whether you want to call it class, respectability politics, some people will call it. They say that's wrong. But there seems to be this disconnect between you're not supposed to do whatever you want at all times of the day. People are just disconnected from that reality. And so that TED Talk to me, it was really interesting because, again, this was a few years ago, but she really, I think, articulates some of the beliefs that some of these lovely ladies of the community have today when it comes to their freedom and ability to twerk literally everywhere at all times. We know we've seen Lizzo twerk everywhere. That's kind of a part of her brand. So I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm like, look, she is an artist. They have a brand. They kind of have a certain image. It is what it is. We seen her twerking at, what was it? A few years ago, she twerked at the basketball game when people were mad and they're like, this is a family event. Like, we don't want to see your behind out. Okay. But nevertheless, that's what she did. So she very much represents this liberation that supposedly women feel by shaking their behind everywhere. I don't get it, but that's what it is. So I wanted, for those of you guys who didn't miss it, let me bring it up for you guys. I want to bring some context, and then we have a lot to unpack here. Again, guys, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Again, you can support me on Cash App, Venmo, Shay Sade. My goal today is to get 15 super chats or 15 contributions. If we do, I will open up the call lines and then I'll hear your thoughts on this. So like, share, subscribe. As always, I'll be sure to acknowledge those super chats. Shay Sade. You can find me on Venmo or Cash App. And let me bring up this video if you guys have not seen it already, and we will unpack it. Wait, let me do this. Okay. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. It's sad that we're even having these conversations, but here we are. Okay, so if y'all haven't heard of this situation already, it's gone viral pretty much at this point, but literally, end quote, twerking for the ancestors. Y'all remember what I told y'all? What's going on, Bella Rings? What's going on, Bella Rings? Good to see you. You guys be sure to go over and check out her channel. Love her stuff. She got some common sense. So sense is not so common today. So be sure to go out and check her channel. She has great content, great family values, Black love, Black family, all that stuff. So that's what you guys are about. Be sure to go over there and show some love. Anyways, so this went viral. Here is a group of Black American women. What's going on, Dexter Matthews? Thank you for the super chat. Starting things out correctly. So showing support and appreciation, making my rounds to channels I'm subscribed to. I barely watch regular programming now. Thank you, Dexter Matthews. Thank you. I appreciate you very much.
That go the money. That go the money.
Okay. Anyways, so you have this video here of these Black American women who, for some reason, decide to go back to the motherland to connect with their ancestors, and their idea of paying homage and respect to their ancestors is to do this. Let me go do it again. Liberation, y'all. So, I mean, y'all, I should not even be laughing. I don't know what twerking has to do with the ancestors at all. But again, here you go. You have these group of Black women who decide to take the trip back to the motherland to try to connect with their roots, to try to get some historical context, whatever. And their way of paying respect to the ancestors is to go twerk at a slave site where their ancestors were captured and enslaved and put into all kinds of inhumane, disgusting, horrible situations. The level of disrespect to me that displayed was like, it's hard to put into words. Like, it's hard to put into words where you have to be mentally to be able to go to a place like that and do that. Like, to me, equivalent would be like, God forbid you saw Jewish people going to like a Holocaust, a museum or something for the Holocaust, and you see them like dancing where they're talking about the chambers and the different things that were done to destroy them. Like that would be the equivalent of being like something so disrespectful that you would at the very place where they were dehumanized and they were just all kinds of atrocities were done, that you would go and twerk for the ancestors. See, and here's the thing about it. For some reason, it seems like the only time I hear, now y'all correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, because I could be wrong, but the only time I hear Black women in mainstream culture talking about their African roots or whatever is anytime they want to complain about colorism and complain about being discriminated against because of their Afrocentric features, or anytime they want to justify bad behavior. That is the only time I hear Black women talking about their African roots. We never hear them talking about the value systems that many of these African women had, the decorum. We like to hear Black women like to call themselves queens, but they don't want to learn about the coronation rights. They don't want to learn about the values. They don't want to learn about the different systems. They don't want to learn about the way women conducted themselves. They don't want to learn about that. They just want to be called queens without any of the qualifications and any of the responsibility associated with that. So why is it anytime I hear Black women talk about their ancestors or the African roots, it's always a reason to justify feminism, and it's always a reason to justify them doing some crazy stuff? I highly doubt that our African ancestors were going around the motherland just twerking everywhere, just twerking. Because I mean, I've been to Africa a couple of times, and I've seen the way the women conduct themselves, and it's not like that. The way they conduct themselves is not like that. They're not over there just randomly twerking in the forest, twerking in the jungle, twerking on beaches, twerking in the market. Like, they're not, like, they have decorum. They have decorum. So for some reason, anytime Black women want to all of a sudden feel connected to Africa, it has to be when they're acting a dang fool. And I'm like, that ain't got nothing to do with Africa. That's just you doing whatever you want to do. And don't sit here and call this liberation. Don't sit there, where I'm seeing it, don't sit there and call that liberation. Because that will be considered by very many African cultures incredibly disrespectful. I mean, first of all, there's many African cultures today where women are quite covered up, right? They're a lot more modest. And yes, dancing is very much a part of Africa, just Black culture, period. But there is a time and a place. And so my problem with twerking is not necessarily to me that I think twerking is bad. I think twerking within a certain context is fine. Like I said, if you want to twerk with your husband, have fun with him or whatever, like, I think that there is a time and a place for that. But the time and the place for twerking is not at Walmart, and it's not at the gas station. It's not on top of a tombstone. It's not on a baby boy. It's not on a toddler. It's not on a pet. Okay, it's not just when you just feel like it and you're in the middle of a soccer game. It's not at the middle of a classroom. Like, twerking is not 7 days a week, 24 hours a day kind of thing. But for some reason, the lovely ladies of the community like to think this is okay. And they like to think that our ancestors would support this. And best believe they would not. Especially if their ancestors actually were, like to call themselves queens. Are you kidding me? Could you imagine a queen going around acting like this? Like she ain't got no common sense, acting like a commoner? That's what we act like. So first of all, it's like, don't disrespect your ancestors by acting a fool. Don't do that. Don't disrespect your ancestors by doing what a stripper would do. That's not respectful. There is a reason in many of these cultures that you had a wife class and you had a concubine class. And for a long time, I didn't necessarily understand it, but now the more I'm understanding the role that women take in society and community, and the responsibility that they have to maintain and pass down certain cultural values, to teach children who they are, to teach them about the spirituality, about conduct, about how to behave themselves. The more I'm understanding the integral role women have in society, the more I understand why there has always been in the larger traditional cultures the difference between a wife and a concubine class. And now we are starting to see why. Because if the women of the community are teaching this, if they're not letting you know, hey, there is a time and a place, if they're not letting you know that there's certain kinds of behaviors that you shouldn't engage in, and everything is just willy-nilly and everything is just a joke, that is the quickest way for your society to devolve. And we're seeing that already. But here's the cold part. The interesting thing about this scenario to me is, first of all, you have these ladies who went out of their way to go to the motherland, right? Which usually requires, first of all, that's going to require some finances. So we have to assume that these women are making enough money. Maybe some of them are educated. Maybe some of them are, we don't know exactly what it is, but we know that they have enough money to be able to get a passport, get the tickets, get the hotel or whatever to go abroad. That require resources. So we can assume that these women are at least middle class. I'm like, if this is the value system of ladies of the middle class, right? Then we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. But here's one thing that I think I want to show that to me really, really takes us to a whole other level. Let me see this. Let me share this. So if you go at the end of this, you have, I think, I don't know exactly, but this is one of the people who I think were on the trip. And just look at the justification. I mean, first of all, I don't even want to read it because I can't even understand half of what she's saying. Yeah, whatever. That's not even worth reading. Let me show you this though, because the way this even went viral, this whole thing even went viral, was through one of the people who were on the trip. She decided to share her experience. So let me share this with you because this gives you guys some further context. Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Shout out to you, Dane C with the 2. It says, hey, hey, hey. I appreciate you with the support on the Cash App. Again, I thank you, Dane C with the 2. It says, was that a slave quarter? Yes, that was a slave quarter. That's the whole point. This is why we're having this conversation. Twerking at slave quarters, no. Twerking on babies? No. Twerking on boys? No. Twerking on girls? No. Twerking on kids? No. Twerking at Walmart? No. Twerking at gas stations? No. Twerking on soccer games? No. Twerking on tombstones? Like, again, as I said before, twerking should not be a 7 days a week, 24 hours a day job. The only person I think who would think like that would be a stripper or somebody who maybe is, you know, works, what do they call it, one of the night. Apart from that, that this is not, no. So with that said, the way this went viral is, you know, the woman went to, I think this is one of the ladies on the trip and went to Ghana. So she posted, you know, her trip at the slave, her experience at the slave quarters. It literally reads, so today I got to experience the slave castle in Cape Coast. It's wild seeing how they did our ancestors. Treated them worse than animals. You guys, let me tell you, when I was in Zanzibar, I actually went to, also went to slave quarters. I'm going to have to see. I was trying to look for pictures before I got in here, and I wasn't able to. It wasn't enough time, but I may share that a little bit later on. But nevertheless, when I went to Zanzibar, I, yes, was able to experience some of the slave quarters. I think Zanzibar, East Africa, was like some of the second or third largest slave trade. Don't quote me on this, but nevertheless, they had also a lot of Black people came from East Africa. So we went to one of the slave quarters, and you guys, like, just the energy there, for lack of a better term, the energy, the vibe, it was very, 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 very dark. It was very dark. And I mean, they had one point, I have to maybe do a whole new live on this. They had one point or a video where they literally showed where our ancestors, right, or where the Africans, where they were put. Like they had like statues, and they showed like life-size statues of Africans, like with the chains on. They showed the churches where they were auctioned at. They literally showed the holding quarters, and we went in the holding quarters, and it was like, it literally was like a cave. It was completely dark. Like, it was just, it's the kind of situation that not even, you would barely expect even an animal to live in. Like, it was just not humane. And they took us into those slave quarters, where they were holding them. And like I said, it was just like dark cave, right, like in the crest of a rock. And they just stuffed Africans, so many Africans in there. And you could just feel how heavy it was. It's really, really hard to explain. It's one of those things you just have to go there. But let me tell you, as somebody who actually has been to some of those sites, the last thing on my mind was dancing and celebrating. The last thing on my mind was thinking of a reason to, I don't know, start breakdancing or whatever. Like, that's not what's going through my mind. That is the last thing going through my mind. As somebody who was actually there and has photos and videos of that experience. Very, 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 very dark. So how somebody could go through that and then come out with what we just saw is beyond wild to me. And she literally says in her caption, treated them worse than animals. It's sad, but of course we had to twerk for our ancestors because period. Y'all see that? She said, it's sad, but of course we had to twerk for our ancestors. Y'all remember the first aspect of the video where I showed you Lizzo? And she was like, I'm twerking for my soul, for my spirit, for my hips. I'm twerking for my future. I'm twerking for my liberation. I'm twerking for my ancestors. Y'all remember that part? Maybe some of y'all who are on now missed it. I may have to go back and play it for those of you guys who are just on. But she literally said, I twerk for my ancestors. And so now, fast forward, we're seeing the results of what happens when we live in this culture where women think that twerking for their ancestors is actually liberatory. That represents respect. It says, it's sad, but of course we had to twerk for our ancestors because period, like what, I don't know what the cuz is. But anyways, happy Juneteenth from the motherland. I think everybody should go at least once in a lifetime. So she had to twerk for her ancestors because period, that part. And then now, well, we see we see what's going on there. Here's some pictures of the slave quarters. Again, I'm like, the last thing I'm thinking when I was here was I'm gonna twerk. That was literally the last thing going through my mind. Literally the last thing going through my mind. But here we are. Some examples. Let me see. Y'all, this is a mess. Okay, so here's some more footage she shared. Okay, just some pictures of the area. Her in the cute dress. Up at this point, nothing too crazy. I mean, apart from that one picture. Well, okay, so some thirst trapping, whatever. And then here again, justification. Like, again, as somebody who was actually there, I'm trying to figure out what the ancestors had to do with you twerking. And I know this is where the enter some of the justifiers who will say, oh, well, the ancestors was this and they was twerking and they was this and that. Like I said, if the only time you're interested in trying to connect with your African culture is so that you can justify what you want to do, then it's not a serious conversation. Because best believe, yes, African women dance. That's a huge part of Black culture, period. But they certainly weren't twerking on grave sites of their ancestors or of their deceased. They weren't doing that. They were not. They had decorum, okay? Like, they knew there was a time and a place. But what I found out upon further investigation of this lovely lady who went viral is that based upon some of her photos, we can see, if you look, I don't even want to go down because you start going down, it looks a little too risky. We can see that hashtag for the ancestors, she has a website called House of Zir Lingerie. And what you start to see, again, as you go further and further down upon the page, is that this woman is a stripper. She's a stripper, y'all. She's a stripper. So when I told y'all that the only one, in my opinion, who would have the mindset of thinking that you going around and twerking all the time is acceptable would be like a stripper or a prostitute or something, well, I was right. Because if you actually go and look at the content of the woman who went viral, yes, she is a stripper. Memphis from Atlanta. She said, IG deleted me for the first time. I'm back. I wonder why IG deleted her. We see Dubai. We see Tulum, Aruba, Jamaica, Cabo, Puerto Rico, Cancun, DR, Jamaica, Mexico. This woman gets around. She's a prostitute. So she's literally a prostitute.
I'm really a whore. Like, I'm like with a W. Like, I'm a whore.
So as mad as I was at this whole thing, and I was like, this is completely disrespectful. Also at the same time, I'm like, oh, she's a stripper. She's international slang. She's a stripper. So of course, in that person's mindset, if you are paid for adult entertainment, in your mind, you justify that as okay. Now, the problem with this is that there used to be a time when there was a distinction made between strippers, prostitutes, women who lived that lifestyle, and then the rest of general society. And there was a distinction made of just like, hey, they're kind of over there doing their thing. The rest of us are over here doing our thing. And we understand that we operate under a different set of values. So that kind of behavior is not going to be done in public. That kind of behavior is done over there. Like, that used to exist. Now that line no longer exists. We have the society has degraded to such a point to now you have strippers have literally integrated into mainstream society. Like, that is mainstream culture. Strip culture is mainstream culture as it relates to Black women specifically. Like, that's what you see. We see that all the time. We see ratchet behavior all the time. It's specifically associated with Black women, and it's so tired. I'm like, first of all, everybody knows you can dance. Okay, everybody knows that. Everybody knows you got a booty. Or if you don't got a booty, you're paying for it. Like, you don't need to advertise this every 15 seconds. Like, it's just hashtag, I'm tired of it, because it's not impressive. And more importantly, it's like, the issue that I saw is we continue to see this push of stripper culture trying to become more not even more mainstream, but that being like connected with Black culture, that being connected with the Black identity. And it's like, I reject that. I don't identify with that. Okay. I don't identify
I'm
with
really a whore. Like I'm a like with a W. Like I'm a whore.
That's not Black culture. That's not African culture. Our ancestors, they didn't go through all that for that week, so we can do that. No, that is a slavery mindset. That is literally a slavery mindset. That is, you have internalized what was said about you or your ancestors to the point to now where you are actually acting it out. We don't even have to sit around and complain about white supremacy because half of us go around and just doing the dumb stuff ourselves. That's not even like an issue for most of us. A lot of it is just like we go around and we act a fool. And I'm not sitting here and saying that stuff doesn't exist. Obviously, that there's still racism and discrimination. Yes, that still happens. What I'm saying is, by and large, a lot of times what we see, especially as it relates to Black women and the way they are represented or presenting themselves, is them disrespecting themselves. And that ain't got nothing to do with nobody else but ourselves. But to conflate stripper culture, literally to conflate stripper culture with the ancestors, to me, is one of the biggest forms of disrespect. But it also shows me that these are women who do not understand who they are. They have no connection with the sense of self. She literally went over there. I mean, in theory, it's like, yeah, I think you should go and try to understand. But I'm like, if you're going to go and bring stripper culture, no. No, I feel like ancestors will be rolling in the grave seeing this stuff. That's so disrespectful. Look, I will be considered corny and lame all day, every day. To me, that's a better alternative than that. That is a better alternative than that. You know, and what's sad to me is you have ladies who actually think that this is the best that they can do. I don't believe God don't make hoes. That was not his intended purpose for women and for Black women, was just to go around being whores. That is not his intended purpose. Now, some of us believe that about ourselves, and so we choose that lifestyle. We don't think we're anything better. We think that's cool for whatever reason, and so we decide to go down that road. But that was not God's intention for Black women, period. But especially Black women, y'all want to go around call yourself queens. His intention, it wasn't for you to call yourself some queen, goddess, whatever, and then go around acting like a hoe. No, that was not his intention. But some of us, that's how low we have fallen. And the fact that you have this stuff like going into mainstream culture, this is why, in my opinion, you have a stripper going to an African gravesite, feeling comfortable, dancing like a stripper. This is precisely why you have them going and thinking that's okay. A stripper who at one point in time would have been like, that behavior, that activity is over there. We don't bring that in these public settings. We don't bring that. That's over there. That stuff used to be shunned, hidden. You have that which was shunned and hidden. Now you have it being brought into these public settings. It speaks to, again, the fallen mindset and the fallen belief system that has impacted many Black women today. And they think it's cute. They think it's no big deal. They think it's, and then they're mad and they get disrespected. And y'all literally heard Lizzo talking about, I'm sexual, but I shouldn't be sexualized. Like, wait, what? So you purposefully present yourself as sexual, but then you big bad when you get sexualized. Like, what? That don't make no sense. This is literally what she said. I want to play that again, actually, for y'all who missed it. Again, real quick, shout out to you. I see Biohammer TV with the $4.99. Sadly, in the community, there are more strippers and ladies of the night that's lauded than women that are wife ready. The cultural imbalance is clear. No lies told. No lies told. I think there was a few other super chats I wanted to make sure that I got. Also, I did see a Cash App come through. Let me see. Jules says, these ladies unknowingly reenacted the intro to Sankofa. Ooh, that's deep. I didn't even think about that, but you are not lying about that. These ladies unknowingly reenacted the intro to Sankofa, a 1993 movie where a woman disrespects the ancestors at the castle and gets transported back in time to the slave factory of the era. That is deep. I did not even think about that, but that's no lies. No lies there.
Amen. That's right.
Okay, so now next, I think I had another super chat I want to get. Yeah, that movie was pretty deep, Sankofa. I think it was like the swirler chick who went there doing crazy stuff and then got transported. Saw Salty Balls with the 2 twerking senators. Don't even remind me. You give me a headache. You give me a headache with that one. I wanted to erase that from my memory. Okay. Also, shout out to you. Y'all, I'm breaking my phone over here. Shout out to you with the 10 on the Cash App. I do not. Let me see. Yeah, on the Cash App, shout out to you. I don't want to butcher your name. I think it's Nisha. Listen, I really don't want to butcher your name. But it starts with SIY with the 10. Thank you so much. You have a very beautiful name that I don't want to totally disrespect, but thank you so much for the for the support. Yes, so absolutely right. But anyways, like I said, what we're seeing now is we are seeing this constant push to conflate stripper culture with Black culture, strippers with Black women, as if they're synonymous. I reject that claim. I don't identify with that. That is not who I am. That's not who God created me to be. That's not who God created women to be. I reject that. But unfortunately, you're seeing this push time and time and time again. Like, this is normal. And you see it being justified. And what's dangerous about this is that you literally have women going and making, it's like they don't understand the spiritual realm at all. There's like zero understanding of the spiritual realm. This is why I said in a previous video, only God can save these hoes. And I don't like calling a woman hoe. I don't like doing that. But what I started to understand was that there used to be a time when being a hoe was bad. But now you got women going around calling themselves whores like it's something to be laughed at, like it's a badge of honor.
I'm really a whore. Like I'm like with a W. Like I'm a whore.
So now me just saying only God can save these hoes. I'm literally just now agreeing with what they say about themselves, about who they have actually revealed themselves to be. Only God can slay these hoes, because when your spirit and when your psychology has been so broken down, when it's been so beaten down by the enemy, physically, spiritually, then it's like literally only God himself. You got to, not this Catherine Save-A-Ho, not this, you got to have these men going and taking on baby daddies or taking on all these kids and taking on being the stepfather of the year, taking Big Brother. It's like, no, even if you did that, even if every single Black man listening to my voice right now decided to go and be the stepfathers of the year and take up random kids they didn't know from the community and try to mentor them and tour them, even if they did that, if you did not deal with the corrupt spirit that has entered the hearts of these women, then something would go awry. If it wasn't in this generation, it would be in generations to come. But when I say only God can save these hoes, I'm being for real. You're talking, these women need a spiritual rejuvenation. This is why I preach and will continue to preach the importance of having a strong spiritual foundation with God. He is the only one that can save these women and let them know what you're doing is disrespecting yourself. You're going on the graves of people and you're dancing. You have now invited a curse on your life. You are engaging with spirits who want to harm you. You are inviting disrespectful, harmful things in your life, and you're completely unaware. Only God can do that, because some of these women are the same women who they wouldn't even listen. Even if somebody went up to them and said, "Hey, that's wrong, right?" They will get mad. They get offended. They'd say, "This is my liberation. This is my mating call. I'm twerking for my ancestors." They wouldn't listen. So it's like, if they ain't listening to you, at a certain point, you got to give them over to God and say, "You won't have to save them. You're gonna have to save them." But that's what I mean. I'm like, at the end of the day, I will continue to preach death, burial, resurrection. That's what these women need. Dying to their old identity, dying to this identity of being a hoe, and being made new in their hearts, in their minds, in their spirits. I'm talking about a completely new person, but nobody can do that. Like I said, Black men can't do that. I can't even do that. That's God himself. The Spirit of God himself has to do it. But there has to be an understanding. There has to be recognition that that kind of behavior is damaging, not only to your image, to your spirit, and ultimately to generations to come. This is why Black women continue to be disrespected, because they disrespect themselves. They invite curses on themselves, and they don't even know it. And then they get mad when they receive the consequences of their actions. And it's like, no, honey, you don't even understand that you are continually inviting curses. You are continually engaging in sin, and then you get mad when you receive the results of that. The laws of reaping and sowing are always at play. Some people call it karma, whatever you call it, but there are just certain laws and principles that operate in this world. And this is one of the things I don't like about people always trying to deconstruct stuff. Certain things don't need to be deconstructed. Certain boundary lines have been established since the beginning of time that are never moving. It don't matter how smart you try to be. It don't matter what kind of theory you try to come up with. Certain boundary lines have always been established and will continue to be established because God put them there. And you trying to deconstruct them, you trying to rewrite them, you trying to try new boundaries, you're only going to be fighting against the hand of God. And this is, I think, what we see a lot. This rebellious spirit that has entered the hearts of women to where they think foolishness is fun. They think being shameful is shameless. Like it's completely backwards. And I'm supposed to just sit here and think that you're doing this for me. You ain't doing that for me. Lizzo's already talking about she twerking for all. She's twerking to represent all of us. I'm like, she ain't twerking for me. Lizzo does not represent me when she's twerking. She's twerking for herself and maybe whatever group of women identifies with that. But she ain't twerking for me. I don't rock with that. I do not rock with twerking everywhere you go. I do not walk with disrespecting yourself everywhere you go. That don't represent my femininity, my spirituality, my blackness, none of that. So no, rejection. I reject that form of black femininity. Thank you. Inappropriate for the context. That's right. There's a time and place. It's as simple. There's a time and place. To me, it's that simple. But what I'm saying is that, again, when you have a rebellious spirit operating, and when there's foolishness in the hearts of women, even common sense isn't common. Even like basic fundamental truths that you would think everybody would know are no longer there because the spirit of foolishness has literally taken over. And you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe one thing that I'm saying. All you have to do is look at the results. Literally all you have to do is look at the results. Nobody can sit here and tell me that. Like I said, unless you're actually your stripper and this is your worldview, you can't sit here and tell me that's the behavior of women with Torah class. No. You said you need a whooping our religion. No, both. Religion will whoop you into place. I don't know what religion you got, but I'm like, if you serving the true God, he will absolutely whoop you into place. Full stop. I'm not talking about this fairy hippie Jesus that people be seeing online where it's like some like white blonde haired like pseudo Serapis Creek. That's not the God I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one with the eyes with flames of fire. Okay, the one who will literally humble kings. Like, people act like God is something to be messed with. It's not. You don't. That's what I'm saying. It's like people don't understand that there are spiritual realities at place that when you start to engage in that and dabble in that, you invite things into your life that are literally impossible to undo without the power of God. And that's why I'm saying only God can save these hoes. There ain't no community outreach that involves black men going and taking on stepsons. Sorry, Dr. Umar, no. Like, ain't no, okay, all these black men just need to go and start wifing up all these single mothers. No. Like, if the corrupt nature has not been addressed, then it's going to lead to bad results in the long run because you haven't dealt with the internal corruption. Says we have the only culture that glorifies our dysfunction. You will never see the Japanese praise the Akusa or comfort woman as no. That's what I'm saying. There's always been a concubine class in all kinds of traditional cultures. But again, they have clearly distinguished between those who are women of the night, those who are over there, do things in private, do things that society don't want to see. It's like, just go over there. I don't want to see it. And then overall cultural values. But now you have this marriage where things that were shameful and quite frankly are shameful are now being presented as this is just Black American culture. as if this is just Black women. And I'm like, I don't know who you talking about, but that's not my culture. That ain't who I represent. So I know some of you guys were a little late there again, or kind of late to coming on. So for those of you guys who did not see it, I want to play real quick again. It's like a 3-minute little clip of Lizzo breaking down the ideology behind culture. And she did this a couple of years ago, but I think this is really important because she sums up in 3 minutes the justification that many women have today as to why they feel they essentially should be able to twerk anywhere. So I'm going to share that again for you guys who missed it. And then I want to go on to one other video and then we go from there. Okay.
Twerking is a deep, soulful, spiritual practice. It's hip opening. It's empowering. When performed as a mapuka, it's said to connect you to God. It's sacred. And now we're practicing that on mainstream stages. We're practicing that at home. And it's contributing to the liberation of women and people around the world. Twerking is good for humanity. 40 years ago, when Black and brown people in New York invented breakdancing, it was villainized. Mainstream media weaponized breakdancing by connecting it to gang activity and violence. As an art form and subculture, it wasn't taken seriously. Fast forward to today, breakdancing is now an Olympic sport. What will be the future of twerking?
Let me ask you real quick, because she kind of is making a connection between twerking and breakdancing. Y'all let me know in the comment sections. Do you guys think that there's a connection? Do you think that that's a fair comparison? Because I do understand, like, yeah, back in the day, breakdancing was looked down upon. I can understand that. But do y'all think that breakdancing and twerking, like, that's a good comparison that she made? Also, for context, I have yet to see Black men go to a slave site and breakdance. Y'all let me know if I missed something, but I've yet to see a group of Black men go to a slave site somewhere or a tomb, okay, and breakdance, or grinding on a baby girl or a baby boy and being applauded for it in music videos or just randomly or in pools or in Target. Like I've yet to see Black men go take that and just do it everywhere. But yeah, I don't know if you guys think that's a fair comparison. He said, right, twerking. I don't understand what liberation she's referring to. Y'all caught that. Let me actually go back and play that because that was a key point right there.
Russian ballet dancers are twerking.
Wait, I want to go back.
As a mapuka, it's said to connect you to God.
Y'all, please, I'm like, keep God out of this, y'all. Please keep God out of your ratchetness. Okay, God be getting blamed for all kind of foolishness all the time. God ain't got nothing to do with women going and twerking on cats. God ain't got nothing to do with that. That's not spiritual. No. You twerking on baby boys? No. That's not. Nope. Twerking at grave sites? No. God ain't got nothing to do with that. Please stop. Like, if you want to twerk, fine. But can we stop trying to put all this extra spiritual queen ideology to justify us doing what we want to do? I would rather Black women just say, I just want to twerk. Period. This ain't for the ancestors. This ain't about God. This ain't about spirituality. This isn't about liberation. This isn't about freedom. I just want to shake my behind. Like, I think I would respect that so much more. Now we have to come up with all these justifications. Oh, this is spiritual. Oh, it's my ancestor spirit. Oh, it's the African. When you won't care about Africa at no other time, the only time you want to talk about Africa is when you're justifying your own foolishness. I'm like, come on now, stop. Please.
It's sacred. And now we're practicing that on mainstream stages. We're practicing that at home. And it's contributing to the liberation.
Like, we're practicing it like practicing it like it's a religion. Like, it's twerking a religion. Maybe and maybe that's the underlying message. Maybe twerking literally is a religion for some of these ladies. Maybe that's what I'm missing. Maybe that's what I'm missing.
Of women and people around the world. Twerking is good for humanity.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Twerking, no. Twerking has done more to damage the image of Black women than liberated. I'll tell you that. If anything, it's liberated you from boundaries or self-respect. But it certainly hasn't liberated you to a place of having more self-esteem, more decorum, more respect now. And we don't like it. I don't like it. Black men, they don't really like it. I mean, apart from maybe if you married in a certain context, but they don't like it. I'm pretty sure the general society is tired of seeing Black women's behind. Look, I'm a Black woman and I'm tired of seeing Black women's behind. So how much more are other cultures and other races like, I really don't care. I don't want to see you shake. We all know you got rhythm. So I doubt it that everybody is looking around just waiting for a Black woman to just start twerking at all hours of the day. I doubt that's what people are thinking, because like I said, as a Black woman, I am tired of seeing Black women twerk. So I am a Black woman who was tired of seeing Black women twerk. How much more are there other people out there who are just like me, who maybe don't feel the freedom to say it because they don't want to be called misogynist or racist or disrespectful or whatever isms are going on today, but they tired of seeing Black women's behind in the camera every 15 seconds. I'm tired of it, and I'm a Black woman. But let me continue.
40 years ago, when Black and brown people in New York invented breakdancing, it was villainized. Mainstream media weaponized breakdancing by connecting it to gang activity and violence. As an art form and subculture, it wasn't taken seriously. Fast forward to today, breakdancing is now an Olympic sport.
What?
What will be the future of twerking?
That an Olympic sport? Okay, we are really, really boosting ourselves up here. But okay.
Russian ballet dancers are twerking. Have you seen it? They be like this. Y'all think I'm playing? They out there like do 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 do.
As I said before, I don't mind twerking within a certain context. Dancing performances, okay, you're dancing with a husband or whatever. In certain contexts, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. The problem we're having is that those boundaries have been disintegrated to the point to where now we're having conversations about African American women who went to Africa and disrespected Africans and their ancestors and thought it was okay. And then now we're conflating stripper culture with mainstream culture and Black American culture and Black culture, period. And I'm like, no. That is not to be a Black woman. This is not to twerk all the time and disrespect yourselves. That's the problem. But to me, twerking in and of itself as a dance, it's like, okay, that's fine. And it's in a certain context.
Can we clear Tchaikovsky? Will we see twerking as an Olympic sport one day? And will Black people still be part of it? I'm proud to be a twerk pioneer. I'm grateful for the asses that came before me.
See, that's where I get upset, because it's like, again, it's like the only thing when we think of Black women, we just think of behind. That's all we think of. And I'm like, do we not understand how disrespectful and dehumanizing that is to ourselves? At the same time, we're complaining about being objectified. We're over here glorifying ourselves for just being a shaken behind. That is the insanity of this. Because we are engaging in our own demise. The things that actually harm us, the things that we don't want, we are doing. And I think that's where there's this big disconnect. And some people call this respectability politics. I'm like, can we bring back respectability politics? Yes, I would love to see more Black women being known for being respectful. I'd rather have that stereotype. I would much rather have that stereotype than this, personally. Let's continue.
All hail Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, from Betty Boop to Buffy the Body. When I shake this ass, I do it for the culture, not the vulture.
Now, not my culture. You ain't doing it for my culture. Let me say that. No, not for my culture.
For me, twerking ain't a trend. My body is not a trend. I twerk for the strippers, for the video vixens, for the church ladies who shout, for the sex work.
Okay, did y'all hear that part? I twerk for the strippers, for the video vixens. Remember what I said before? Because she spent this whole time talking about African culture, and then when she actually, or Black culture, and then when she described Black women in their profession, she went to strippers and video vixens, and then she threw on church girls or church women. Like, what are you talking about? What kind of nonsense? What kind of nonsense is this? How are you putting video vixens and strippers, first of all, in the same category of a woman of God? Stop. Second of all, How, when it comes down to now actually expressing and talking about the different professions and the different expressions of Black femininity, the first thing you think about is prostitutes and video vixens? Like, what are we even talking about? This is the kind of foolishness I'm saying. This is some BS. She went up here, did this whole talk about supposedly Black culture, and the first thing she said is, I'm twerking for the prostitutes and the video vixens and my ancestors, as if they're the same thing. Our ancestors would they be rolling in the ground. This is foolish. This is what I'm saying. Only God can save these hoes. This is ridiculous. This kind of foolishness. The fact that this is even a thought. It's like we're beyond the level of just ignorance. We're beyond that. We're now into the point of doctrines of demons. You're now into a point of rebellious spirit. And that's the kind of stuff where it's like, you need born again. And don't be going around talking about I'm twerking for God or for Jesus. No, he ain't got nothing to do with that. He ain't got nothing to do with you disrespecting yourself. God didn't make no hoes. You chose to be that because you're believing the lie that's being sold to you. And I'm supposed to sit here and agree and say this is for the culture? You're not representing my culture. You ain't representing my culture. You're not representing my culture. Let me continue. I'm trying to be nice.
I twerk because Black women are undeniable. I twerk for my ancestors, for sexual liberation, for my bitches. Hey, girl.
You do not. Your ancestors, trust me, wanted nothing to do with that. Let me just say that. If you actually understood even an iota of what you would consider African culture, or if you understood anything about queens, coronation rights, because y'all know Black women like going around calling themselves queens and goddesses. If you read even a little bit of the different responsibilities that they had and the way that they were to conduct themselves and be respectful and honorable, they would distance themselves completely from this. They would not they would disown this. They would not co-sign this. What are we talking about? Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe, show some love on the super chat. Y'all show some love on the super chat, and we're gonna take a little bit of break, and then I'm gonna continue cooking. All right, y'all, let's continue.
Because I can. Because I know I look good. I twerk because it's unique to the Black experience.
There are many things that are unique to the Black experience that we could highlight. There are many accomplishments that Black men and Black women have done. So many honorable things that are usually not highlighted and usually not celebrated. I would much rather you go on stage and talk about that, not sit there and conflate your African Black ancestry with some freaking video vixens. Like, our ancestors weren't going around calling themselves.
I'm really a whore. Like, I'm with a W. Like, I'm a whore.
That's not what they weren't doing that. So again, of all of the different things, if we want to go down history lane and pay homage to our ancestors, like, of all the things we could talk about, the one thing we had to do was go around and talk about Black women's behind. At the same time that we complain about being objectified. Do y'all see how foolish this is? Do y'all see how this don't make no sense? How we disrespect ourselves? Oh gosh. Okay. I'm almost done here.
It's unique to my culture and it means something real to me. I twerk because I'm talented. Because I'm sexual, but not to be sexualized. I twerk to own my power, to reclaim my blackness, my culture.
That is not what. So, but you guys see what I'm talking about, right? How blackness has been conflated with twerking? Like, really? And then again, we are mad when we are disrespected and when we don't get taken seriously. And then when the men that we want don't want us back, where we are over here promoting and leading with our behind. But then we're big mad. I've seen this super chat. Let me make sure I got it. It says, globally, we are the butt of everyone's joke. Like literally, quite literally, we are the butt of everyone.
Amen. That's right.
Like, but for some reason, this obvious connection is not being made. Like, it's going over people's head. And that's what I'm saying. I'm like, we continue with this. You continue down this road of being the butt of everyone's joke, literally. I mean, and then at that point, you're going to get the results that you get. And you can't blame the man on it. You can't even blame black men on it. You can't say, oh, well, white supremacy and the Afrocentric features, and they don't want, you can't. It's you. You disrespected yourself, and then you're mad when you get disrespected. This is the laws of reaping and sowing. Call karma, whatever. They're at play. As I said before, there are certain laws and principles. There are certain boundaries that have been established that are never changing and will not change. And we only make our lives more difficult when we try to fight against those God-given boundaries. And what we see is a culture that has celebrated a lack of boundaries, that has celebrated shamelessness. Like having no, it's not even that, it's not like I want people to walk around. I don't believe in having people walk around with shame all the time, because I know that can get also help, can be detrimental, and there can be other side effects of that. But what I'm saying is, if you're doing something wrong, yeah, you should feel bad about it, because the whole purpose of you feeling bad about doing something wrong is so that it will move you to not do it again, and to know this probably isn't good for me. Let me go do that instead. But if you remove the consequences of your shameful behavior, if you start justifying what you're doing that is wrong or harmful or disrespectful, then again, you invite more curses. You invite more bad things in your life. And it's not even necessarily because, like I said, the man's out there to get you because black men are doing this or they're talking about, it's not that. It's just like, now you're just dealing with the laws of the universe that God established. Like, and can't nobody fight against that. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's really no spiritual understanding at all. It's like zero. She said we're living in a big psych ward. No lies told. Okay, let me finish this real quick.
I twerk for fat black women because being fat and black is a beautiful thing.
Okay, listen. Stop. Black women are literally harming themselves. And again, I know we have those exceptions, right? We have those exceptions who have diseases, who have sicknesses, and like, I get that. We can remove that 0.1% of black women from the population, or whatever small percentage. Celebrating obesity that leads to heart disease, which, if I'm not mistaken, is like the number one, or if not like one of the top deleters of black women. We shouldn't celebrate that. We shouldn't celebrate the thing that is actually harming us. And I know there's this idea out there right now where it's like, oh, you can be fat and healthy. Maybe, okay, 10, 15 pounds overweight. Okay, maybe that's arguable based upon the BMI. 115 pounds overweight? No. Your body was, at a certain point, your bones are not made to hold that load long term. There's you just can't get around science. So no, I am not for promoting something that has actually been proven to harm us and is continuing to harm us and then make it seem like it's cute. This is another way we disrespect ourselves. No, don't celebrate the things that are actually negatively impacting the women who look like you. Don't do that. No. Let's continue.
I twerk because it's as natural to me as breathing. Black women invented.
Okay, please. But okay, y'all hear that? I'm sorry. I know I'm bringing it up. Did y'all hear her say, I twerk because twerking is like breathing? Breathing you do 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. That's something that we actually depend upon. She compared twerking to breathing as if that's something that she needs to do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She said it's like breathing to me. So you mean to tell me you depend upon twerking? You need to do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You need that. I've heard this before, but I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm laughing because this is so ridiculous. This is this is literal. She said twerking is like, you know when things get so sad, like you kind of need to laugh as like a coping mechanism. Like this is your body's way of helping you deal with the trauma associated with that. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. She just really said twerking is like breathing. Again, we need breathing to survive. We literally do twerk, or not twerk. We literally breathe 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because our bodies depend upon it. Right? If we don't have breath, you will literally pass away. Twerking is not breathing. You don't need to twerk as a means of survival. Like, if you never twerk a day in your life, you can still live happy and full and exist. Like, that's why I'm like, I don't. Okay, let me try to get through this.
Twerking, and twerking is part of the revolution. We've been doing it.
Can y'all tell me what revolution? Because she talked about some, like she was using these like nationalistic terms or something. Like she's leading some, I don't know, she's leading something, like leading us to freedom. But I'm like, what revolution and what liberation is she calling? That's what I don't understand. Is it feminism? Is it the body positivity? I don't understand why she's using these terms like she's like Martin Luther King or something. The sexual, is that what it is? The freaking revolution. Sexual, okay, that makes sense. Because I'm like, what are we even talking? Okay, I think y'all helped me understand that. Okay, let me finish this.
Keep on doing it because we have and always will be the blueprint.
We've heard this. Black women are, the blueprint of the mothers, yada, 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 yada. And I get it. I mean, science is what it is. We know, like, Black people have dominant gene. Like, I understand that. The problem is, if Black women are assuming that they are the mothers and teachers of society, then society is going to hell. It's going down the drain. Because if that's what she's alluding to, and if women were now to take on this position of twerking is like breathing, therefore I need to twerk all the time and I need to be sexual all the time, although not being sexualized. Like if women take on that mindset, that would literally lead to the demise of society, because there'd be no, as I said before, there's no boundaries. We're continuing to try to break down boundaries that have already been clearly been established by God that help keep societies in order. And then now the fact that you're conflating strippers with women of God, video vixens and prostitutes with women who are devout, you see how they're constantly trying to blur those lines. And when you have no boundaries, you have chaos. You have literal chaos. So I'm saying, if your idea is Black women are leading as mothers are leading nations, they are leading people to wherever, then whatever they're leading is going to hell. If that like if that is a trajectory, and that's not what we want, because obviously that would be bad. But secondly, that's a lie, because like Black woman culture is not stripper culture. That's not stripper. No, if you believe that, then that means again you believe the lies that have been told about you for generations. You have believed the lies so much so now that you're internalizing it, and I think that's really what this whole scenario has told me. It's like the irony of Black American women going to Africa to reconnect with their ancestors and try to reconnect with their culture and bringing that slave culture with them. The irony of that, and also the sadness of that. Because what those women didn't understand was that as they were going there twerking for the ancestors, they were literally reinforcing every single stereotype that was said about their ancestors. They were reinforcing it. They were cursing their ancestors. I don't even think they really knew it, but that's what they were doing. And that's what I'm saying. It's like we invite curses on ourselves sometimes by our own actions. Not even, and sometimes it's not even intentional, just not by understanding laws and principles, not understanding that the way we act actually brings consequences. And that, again, by you believing the lies that have been told about you, about being nothing other than just a behind, right? Or being nothing. I mean, there's the Jezebel stereotype that Black women had. They had the just being a bed wench, right? Just being there for the sexual pleasure of massa, and then just the sexual pleasure of whoever. And now fast forward, we're not in those chains, but you see those chains still being there mentally for a lot of these ladies, but you celebrate it and you think it's liberation. And it's like, you're literally now just reinforcing the lies that were told about your ancestors decades ago. But now you believe it, and now you're projecting it. And you can't even turn to the white man. You can't even turn to the Black man. You can't turn to the Afrocentric. It's like, you're doing it. You are now reinforcing. You are now living out these lies. And that's again, what I don't think is being understood.
We twerk to remind ourselves we here and we ain't going nowhere. So in a case of optimism.
So y'all heard that? Basically, we're here and we ain't going nowhere. She said she sounded like she just no lies told. No lies told. So again, guys, like, share, subscribe. I have one more that I want to share with you guys. And then if I have a few minutes, I'm open up the call lines and hear from y'all, beautiful people. Another video go viral from the BET Awards. Surprise, surprise. Of yet again, Black women doing what?
Yeah. And I'm the reason. Hey. Yeah. And I'm the reason.
Okay, real quick. I talked about this on my video I did, I think 2 days ago. If y'all missed it, go check it out on whether or not Black men are gay and down low. There's all this rhetoric that have been going around about Black men being gay and down low. Meanwhile, it's every 15 seconds I see Black women twerking. They're usually twerking on each other. Y'all notice that? I feel like it's rare that I actually see Black women twerking on men, largely because Black men aren't trying to twerk with you in the middle of Target, okay? Like, or in the middle of the gas station. Like, most Black men are not. I'm sure you got them pookies out there, but I'm saying, like, they're, I think, a little bit more aware of their surroundings because they're Black men and they're seen as a threat. So you're hard pressed to see a Black man like in the middle of the street, with a woman, like in the middle of a freeway, just twerking with a woman. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, they got a little more situational awareness because they have to, because they're Black men. Anytime I see Black women twerking, therefore, it's usually on other women. Twerking is a highly sexual dance. Highly sexual. Highly sexual. And Lizzo even alluded to that. She's like, I like to be sexualized. No, she's like, I like to be sexual, but not sexualized. That makes no sense, but nevertheless, twerking is a sexual dance. We see Black women largely twerking on each other all the time. Therefore, we see Black women being sexual to each other all the time, in public, often. And yet, somehow Black men are the ones who are gay. Somehow Black men are the ones who are going around being gay and DL and bi and respect. Black men are the ones. But every time we see Black women twerking, they are twerking on themselves. I talked about this in my video. Like I said, if y'all missed it, check it out. I posted it, I think, like 2 or 3 days ago. And if we look at the rates of bisexuality and those who identify among the spectrum, it is women. It's largely women. Bisexuality is growing fastest among women, especially Black women. And I wonder why. Like, this kind of culture, it's like, this is seen as normal. Like, these two women could do this and then freely walk away and claim to be heterosexual, and they're not going to be, nobody's going to question it. Again, these women could do this in public, and they both walk away and say they're completely, fully straight, and nobody would question them. Have two Black men get up and start grinding on each other. Have two Black men get up in the BET in public and grind on each other, and tell me if those men wouldn't be called all kinds of gay, DLs, homo, rainbow, all of that stuff. So this is a side point, but I do find this, again, really curious that the narrative about folks being gay in the Black community is somehow always men, when anytime we see people of the same gender being openly sexual with one another, it's usually the women. So I'm like, again, we're not having an honest discourse here. And why do we see bisexuality on the rise for Black women? And what does that mean? That's a whole nother conversation that I think I may pack at a later time. But that was just something I wanted to point at. Also, she pregnant. Call me classist. Why are you like, you're pregnant? Like, I will never understand this. And maybe now we're getting into class, because there is something to be said about, like, you growing up in certain environments, in certain class, like, you just don't do certain things. So if I'm a pregnant woman, am I going to be going on television barefoot, twerking on another woman? Probably not. Even if I'm not a pregnant woman, am I going to be going barefoot on television and twerking on another woman? Probably not. You likely won't find me doing that. But I don't understand what the point of this was. Just Black woman doing this, acting, to me, it's just ratchet. It is just so ratchet. It is just so ratchet to me. If she got money, like they're at a strip club, see, like, this stripper culture. So Black culture has become synonymous with stripper culture. Black women have become synonymous with strippers. And then they try to throw God in this mix somehow, say that some spirituality, then try to connect with the African. And I'm like, God ain't got nothing to do with that. Your ancestors ain't got nothing to do with that. None of that. If anything, that's you believing lies that have been told about your people for a long time. Now you're literally just internalizing those lies. Because it was said about our ancestors that all the women were just, we weren't even considered human, right? We weren't considered fully human for some time in this nation. So there were really bad things that were said about us. And our value was not seen as in the same level as other people in the society, right? So those stereotypes existed. But now you're internalizing it. And you're not openly saying it, but you are celebrating being put on the same level as a stripper or a prostitute, who are literally women who are considered to be usually the bottom of the barrel. Let's just be honest. In no society are people putting strippers and prostitutes on a pedestal. That doesn't have, just if you're just talking traditionally how cultures, that doesn't work. Usually those women are like, they're over there, they're a whole different class. We're doing those things behind closed doors. But they're not elevating those women as the standard of society because they understand the role that women play in helping to maintain and keep culture and cultivate children and cultivate values and maintain things, maintain households. They understand that. So they're not going to put women who have poor values or who have a poor sense of self, they're not going to now take that woman who has a poor sense of self or poor self-image and then now use that woman to instill value into the future generations, because that would lead to destruction. But that's what's going on. And like I said, they're being conflated. We saw that in what's her name? Lizzo's video, where she conflated twerking with Black culture and her ancestors, and mix it all in like a big old pot of gumbo. And it's like, no, they are not the same. Can we stop with this? Stop. So yeah, I'm like, your ancestors ain't got nothing to do with this. Miss me with the you trying to be now all African centered. The only time you want to be African centered is when you want to go and justify your own foolishness and justify doing what you want and now being held to standards because you're like, well, my ancestors did this, so you can't tell me nothing. That's why they do it. They don't want to hear about the other thing, the things that their ancestors actually did, the decorum, right? The cultural values. The values they had to their husbands and to their children and to their community. They don't really want to hear about that. They don't want to hear about decorum. They don't want to hear about class. They don't want to hear about the different rites of passage, the things that African women actually went through that was a part of maintaining a healthy culture and a healthy self-image. They don't care about that. They just care about trying to make up reasons, again, to justify behavior that ultimately is leading to their own disrespect. And that's not helping nobody. It's just not. It's just not. So I'm here to say, again, this, first of all, twerking is not, and stripper culture is not Black culture. I don't identify with this. There's a lot of Black women out there who do not identify with this. Actually, let me show this real quick. Let me show this real quickly because, just so y'all know, we ain't all out here being a fool. We ain't all out here acting crazy. So I posted this yesterday. I was like, can we stop? Like, I'm tired. Like, I'm tired. Okay. I'm tired of seeing anytime Black women are put on a pedestal, it's to do something stupid. And it's to see your behind. We already know you have it. And if you don't have it, we already know you bought it. So like, that's not impressive. There are other aspects of who you are. And there are other things that you could be if only you knew. So I posted this yesterday. I was like, am I the only Black woman who was tired? Right? I posted on the community tab too. Now, I was happy to see some Black women chime in like, look, no, this is lame. It's lame to me. It says, you are not alone. I am exhausted seeing it everywhere and all day. Okay, I saw this one over here. No, you are not. I am completely over this shaking. I talk about this very thing. It's just getting out of hand, that part. It says, I don't think it stems from our roots. Honestly, we are naturally high vibrational people. She's like, I don't think this is really us. I agree. It says, that's a man. I'm the one, but I'm also tired of seeing them twerk. That's a man. You got men over there just like, look, I'm a man. I'm a heterosexual man, and I'm tired of it. It says, I'm right there with you, beyond tired. Okay. Beyond tired. Agreed. Certain things need not be on social media. Agreed. There's a time and a place. But that's been lost. It says that twerking thing is bad. Yeah, it's not. I don't think that that's just people trying to justify stuff. It says, you're not alone. Sis, it's too much. It says, I agree. It's a very small portion of Black women who do this. And I really want to believe that. Like, I really want to believe that it is a small portion of Black women who are going on and being really open and being really brazen about their disrespect. But like I said, all it takes is a few. All it takes is a few to really mess with the damaged reputation. But also on the flip side, all it takes is a few, in my opinion, to stand up and be like, we don't rock with this. This is not our cult. This is not who we are. This is not who God made us to be. Definitely don't put God in this conversation. So it's like, really, you have a choice, right? Like ladies, it's like, ladies, you have a choice. You can be silent or you can agree with what's being said about you, because the picture that's being painted and the picture that will continue to be forced down your throat is that your culture and that your identity as a Black woman is to be a stripper and to be a prostitute and to be a hoe. And then they're going to fund those. They're going to fund women who will continue to go and promote that culture. They're going to fund it. Shout out to you, Rejuvenated, with the 199 that says, I like the conversations pushed forth here. I love. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So you're going to continue to see the idea and the narrative being pushed that as a Black woman, you are a stripper or a prostitute, or you are, what does Sukiana say? She said that, yeah, she said she came from a long line of trips going all the way back to Egypt. Sukiana said that. You're going to hear that you are a whore, or that you being sexual liberated, that's your ancestral right. That's what you're going to hear. That's what they're going to tell you. And I'm here to tell you, if you listen to what mainstream society is saying about you, then you are disrespecting yourself and you are inviting bad spirits into your life. You are doing it. Disrespecting yourself, dishonoring yourself, living below your value. God didn't make hoes. God didn't create Black women to be hoes. He did not. I say this all the time. If you look at wisdom, right? If you actually look at the wisdom text and you see wisdom talking, and you see the different passages in scripture, in the Bible, that talk about wisdom, wisdom is personified as a woman. All throughout Proverbs, when woman is speaking, uses the word she. Wisdom is personified as a woman. Even if you look at Proverbs 31, right? Where it's King Solomon, mom, is teaching. And so we see this, I guess, this distinction between foolish women who go and they dishonor themselves and then they bring curses on themselves and people like them. And then we see women of God. We see women of wisdom who actually bring generational blessings and who actually instill good, healthy, strong cultural values that will help raise up future generations and help them be successful. So I'm like, God didn't create women to be hoes who are going to invite dishonor in their own life. He created you to be a woman of God who can actually bring blessings and can bring value to your culture and to your children and to yourself. That's who he created to be. But many of us, we are just believing the lies of what have been told about us through society. We're going online, we're going on social media, we're looking up to the most rich and the famous. And a lot of the time, a lot of the people, a lot of the Black faces that are famous that we see being promoted are reinforcing the stereotypes, reinforcing the lies that have been said about us. And so they put the Sukiana on the pedestal. They put the Cardi B's, they put the Meg Thee Stallions on the Nicki Minaj, they put all those people, they put those images. And they fund them and they put them in your face and have them lead trends and have them lead culture and have them portray this luxurious lifestyle that many women are attracted to. And then they tell you, oh, we're just now continuing what our ancestors did. And it's a lie. It is a total lie. A lie meant to destroy you, a lie meant to destroy your culture, a lie meant to destroy your spirit. And that's what's happening. So like I said, I don't identify with that. I don't identify with the lie. I know I was created to be a woman of God. And that there's a whole other thing associated with that. There's blessings. There is bringing a value. There is decorum. There is dignity. There is class. There is value that God ascribes to my identity that has nothing to do with my behind. But if you believe the lie, then all you're going to be is just a shaken behind. And what happens when you get old? What happens when it gets saggy? Okay, what happens when your body isn't the same, when you can't twerk? Does that mean you don't have no value? Because if all you do is associate yourself with your behind and your body and your ability to be sexual, well, when you can't be sexualized anymore because you just don't look good, because they're not looking at you like that. They don't see you as attractive. Like, what's going to happen? You're going to lose your value? What's going to happen? So that's That's what I'm saying. And that's why I said before, I'm like, only God can save these hoes. Only God can do it, because we're dealing with a rebellious spirit. And even if you put these women, you try to put them in some wifey boot camp and try to reintegrate them into society, if you didn't deal with that rebellious spirit, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work long term. It's like these women need spiritual rejuvenation, which is why I will continue to preach death, burial, and resurrection. You dying to this old identity of who you say that you are, who the world has said that you are, and who the enemy has said about yourself, and all the destructive things that are harming you. Being born again. This is what being a Christ follower is about. You taking on a new identity that God has established for you. When I say only God can save these hoes, that's because even if you understand the biblical narrative, right? God redeemed prostitutes. He redeemed the lowest of the low, but they had to surrender their life, and they actually had to go through the purification process. So I'm like, this is not, again, a Dr. Umar trying to put this responsibility on Black men to try to be super stepdads and try to captain save a hoe. No, you can't do that. You can't save a hoe's bad spirit. Only God can do that. You can redeem them and try to teach them what's right and teach them the truth and let them know this is harming you. And if you don't turn away, then you're going to continue to invite curses on yourself, on your life, and future generations. And that's what I'm saying. These women need born again. These women need God in the best ways. And I'm not talking about the blonde-haired, blue-eyed hippie Jesus that we all seen on media. That's a total heretical depiction. I'm talking about the Son of God, the power that created this world, this universe, that can redeem a broken soul. That's what these women need. Apart from that, you got to leave them to their own. You got to leave them to their own devices, because you can't convince the rebellious spirit to try to do something different. They have to come to their own conclusions. That's what's going on is not working for them. But let it be clear, this is not this culture, that this stripper culture. That's not us.
I'm really a whore. Like I'm with a W. Like I'm a whore.
That's not us. No, like I said, that is not us. That is not Black culture. That is not Black women. That is not who we need to be. That's not who we have to be. But you get to decide what you want to believe about yourself. And you get to decide whether or not you're going to continue down that road, or you're going to let the values of mainstream culture shape you, or whether or not you're going to go a different way. But anyways, he said wifey boot camp, I'm dead. So that's what I got, y'all. I think I got a few more minutes. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, I got a few more minutes. I need 3 more super chats, then I can open up the call lines. So yeah, if you guys want the call lines, if you guys kind of want to call in and weigh in, I just need at least 3 more super chats, and then we can get that going. In the meantime, y'all enjoy the intermission. All right, guys, again, I need 3 more super chats if I'm to open up the call lines. So y'all know the drill. And yeah. All right. So, shout out to you again. I see another 10 on this super chat. I see for you on Keep It Up, pronounced C on K. Thank you so much for the 10. Thank you, Dennis, for the 5. It says thanks for everything you do. Shout out to you, Kevin C, with the 3. It says Shay is taking it personal, and I am too. More of us should take it personal, honestly. Keep the show going. Thank you so much, Dane C. As I mentioned before, we're really willy-nilly and really like brainless about things that actually have long-term consequences. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because it may seem simple, but this is a snapshot into the mindset and the overall cultural climate today. And it also reinforces what I think I believe not only women are believing about themselves, but the different basically the different ways that we are bought into the lie. How Black women have believed what has been said about this, has believed what has been said about them. The fact that Black culture, African culture, can be conflated with prostitutes and strippers is the highest form of disrespect. The highest form of disrespect and dishonor. We saw Lizzo do a 3-minute, now she actually did an entire TED Talk. I don't know how long the entire TED Talk was. We saw a 3-minute clip, her consistently conflate stripper, prostitutes, video vixens, women of the night with her ancestors, with liberation, with freedom. And I'm saying this is a message over and over and over and over again. Anytime we see a woman being super sexualized, really disrespecting herself and her body, really supposedly in touch, but just presenting herself like a hoe. Anytime we see that, it's almost always Black women. Almost always. Oh, did y'all? This thing isn't even on. Did y'all? I hope y'all heard me. I was talking this whole time. I hope y'all heard me. Let me know if y'all heard me. But yeah, it's always Black women, like almost always. And so I don't rock with that, first of all. But secondly, it's like these are bad long-term ramifications that, if are not addressed, again, will start to impact future Black women. At the same time, we have women over here twerking on freaking grave sites and just I like the fact that I even have to say this. You got Black women going to Africa to connect with their culture, supposedly, and their ancestors going to slave sites and twerking there in a place where there was so much just atrocities that were done to our ancestors, that were done to these people. And the thing that you could think to do is twerk. Like, that's what comes to your mind when you are literally hearing the history. You're hearing the stories and narrations. They're telling you, oh, this is where they were held. This is where they were beaten. This is where many of them are processed. This is where many of them died. This is where they're, you're hearing the story and your thought is to now twerk. Like, that's what comes to your mind. But that's what I'm saying. Even the video I showed you that went viral was of a stripper. And sometimes I wonder, it's like, I don't know. It's hard to know, because I do understand algorithms have their own thing, and I do understand algorithms can promote certain things. So it's hard to know, like, whether or not this is being pushed or this is something that we are actively doing, or both. I tend to think it's both. I tend to think it's Black women are actively portraying, they're actively working in their own demise. And there's already a system that has not necessarily been favorable to Black people, just keep it a buck. But now Black women are now actively working in that system, actively working against their own undoing and completely unaware of it. But then at the same time, mad when they're disrespected, mad when they're not picked, mad when they don't get the men that they want, or mad when they're not protected, and this and that. Why they go online and say that they are strippers and hoes and whores.
I'm really a whore. Like, I'm with a W. Like, I'm a whore.
And mad about it. This is why, like, when the whole Sukiana thing happened, and I was like, you can't be upset when a whore is treated like one. She literally went in the interview and was like, oh, I come from a long line of tricks. I come from a long line who was selling a long line. So it's like, if a woman goes online and literally says that she has been selling her body and using men, and maybe even women, truthfully, and that she has a lineage of that, you cannot be surprised when she is treated sexually. Like, this is not rocket science, people. This is not difficult to understand. You don't need to have a PhD to understand these basic principles. If you treat yourself like a prostitute, then if you portray yourself as a prostitute, if you say you're a prostitute and a hoe and a whore, you can't be mad if somebody comes up to you and now wants to solicit your services, or somebody perceives you as sexual, or that's how you're coming off. Like, that is how you're portraying yourself. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I wanted to talk about this, because this is essentially what's going on. And the fact that there's like not this awareness, or maybe, I don't know if it's like blissful ignorance or if it's stubborn ignorance, where it's like you want to be ignorant, you want to pretend like you don't understand how you're destroying yourself. It's hard for me to know. It's hard for me to know, like, does she really think and believe this? Is she not totally unaware of how disrespectful it is for her to go online and say, I'm twerking for my ancestors, and then the video vixens and the prostitutes and also the church ladies, as if they're all on the same level, as if that is all you could. I mean, that's what I'm like. Listen. Anyways, yeah, I'm with you, Danes, to keep the show going. Thank you, guys. So I do want Twerking is Brilliant. I'll say this again. I'm not saying the dance in and of itself is horrible. Like, I don't, in a certain context, fine, dance. I love dancing. Dancing is great. I know dancing is a huge part of Black culture. Like, Black culture is very vibrant. There's many creative things that we have done and produced. So I'm not saying that is in and of itself bad. What I'm saying is there's lack of decorum, and there is and that stems from a huge lack of understanding, a huge lack of value. And then ultimately, I think there's a rebellious spirit going on, and a foolish spirit that has just filled the hearts of women. And they're celebrating it and not understanding how they're participating in their own demise. And like I said, you can't go out there and disrespect and dishonor yourself and then be mad and confused when you're not respected and you're not honored. Like, it's just, again, this is not rocket science, people. Anyways, okay. Yeah, Black people love dancing. Context. I said this before. Can y'all find me a video? Please find me, correct her mama, find me a video of Black men going on a grave site, going to slave chambers and breakdancing. Like, please, somebody show me that. Show me a video of a Black man or Black men grinding on babies and toddlers. Please show me that video. Show me that. Grinding on tombstones in the middle of Walmart at gas station. Please, I would like you, if any of you guys have evidence, please show me. Because what I mentioned before, a lot of times when we are seeing these pictures of these women who are grinding on top of twerking, y'all notice how it's usually women who also are the same women who say that Black men are gay or down low. That's a whole other thing. But y'all notice how usually when you see women twerking in inappropriate places, it's always women. It's almost always the women. And there's a reason for that, because I think Black men by and large have better situational awareness because they're Black men and they understand that they're targeted, especially in certain environments. They are not perceived. They may be perceived as a threat, depending upon how they present themselves, depending upon maybe their stature, their all of that, right? So I think in general, Black men have better situational awareness. And so there may be even Black men out there who they enjoy twerking under, right? Or they enjoy being twerked on or whatever under a certain context and a certain environment, but they're not going to be standing out there with their lady, like in the middle of a freeway, trying to stop traffic and twerk. Right? They're not going to be going on top of a gravesite and then taking photos and twerking on all these different random grave sites. They're not going to be going on top of a McDonald's or going to brunch randomly and just breaking out in the middle of the restaurant and then twerking on tables. Like, I think by and large, correct me if I'm wrong here, people, but I think by and large, Black men have more situational awareness, which is why anytime you see Black women twerking and it's in a highly inappropriate way, they're by themselves or they're with other women. Most of the time. I'm not saying all the time, but I'm just saying in general. I don't know, kind of I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, let me open up the call lines. I know you guys have been patient. And then guys, like, share, subscribe. Let me drop the super chat. They're on the super chat. I mean, y'all can super chat. Also, if you like what's going on, like, share, subscribe, Cash App, Venmo, y'all know the drill. And then let me share the link for any of you guys to call in and weigh in. So if Shay was president, Shay would institute a law that banned twerking in certain settings, public settings, right? Like there would be some form of a fine or something associated with you twerking in inappropriate places. If Shay was president, Shay would do that. Now, I'm curious, guys, would you ban twerking? Would you ban twerking, or would you institute a law that says twerking is only acceptable under these parameters? If you are found twerking outside of these parameters, you will be fined or you will face some form of repercussion. I don't know if that's hilarious of me to say that. I'm curious how you guys feel about that. But that's what I would do. Now, I'm not president, so obviously this is just my opinion, ain't going nowhere. But is Shay wrong to believe that? What's going on, Kevin C? Okay, I don't know if I can hear you. Am I the only one that can't hear you? Okay, I don't hear you yet, but that's fine. It says,
you hear me now?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was supposed to be ready for when I was not ready. I'm sorry. That was me, not you. I usually think I'm the second or the third one.
All good. You know, it just depends. It really just depends on the show.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I usually think other people are going to come up, and then I'm like, I'm not ready.
All good.
Yeah, but hey, so you saw was it super chat, and you're taking this a little personal, and you know what? You should.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking it personal too. Look, here's the deal. This is essentially sacred in a hallowed place.
Mm-hmm.
It is a place of suffering, great, where people suffered great indignities, some of the worst inhumanities.
Yeah.
That all the way up to people losing their lives, torture, some of the most unimaginable things happen there. Even when they're explaining it to you, you have to imagine it in your mind. And I remember seeing a video of a content creator who actually went to Elmina Castle. It's Elmina, right?
Yes.
Where did this one take place? Okay.
Yeah. I think it was Elmina. I went to one I went to was in Zanzibar. I may do a whole different video on it. But the one there was it was in Ghana, Elmina.
Yeah, and it was a gut-wrenching, horribly emotional experience for her.
Yeah.
Like, so the fact that you can get up there and twerk at a place that is so sacred and just be disrespectful and say, quote unquote, for the ancestors, look, that's some place you should never be going anyway. That's strip club, debaucherous, degenerate behavior in a place that where it has no business. And and look, you said it too. I mean, look, if you have to ask why, if you're okay with this and you're not married, and even if you are, I'd question you, but if you aren't, and this is your standard behavior, this is your level of behavior, wherever it is you go,
right,
then you don't deserve marriage. You don't deserve male attention. You don't deserve, there's a whole lot of things you just don't deserve. You don't deserve respect. And you know what? This is the thing that and I get on non-black people a little bit. I get at them sometimes. But they will use stuff like this as justification for further degradation, mistreatment, and insults and abuse against black people. They'll go, look, you guys don't even respect your own hallowed sites.
Yeah. That's the problem.
This is the stuff that people see.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. This is exactly what happens. And it's like as I was saying before, we start to participate in our own demise and destruction And that's why I mentioned, you correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm curious your thoughts. It's like, is it that is there like a real ignorance? Like, is it like a strong level of ignorance, or is it just flat out I don't care rebellion? Maybe it's both. But I'm like, for you have a Lizzo who, for her to put strippers, women of God, video vixens, and African culture all on like the same level field, it's like, were you programmed to say this? Do you fully believe this? Are you
none of those are equal. Well, I mean, yeah.
One of them.
Well,
Like,
I mean,
how are you?
some of that stuff is related, but obviously when you start talking about church women and look, I mean, it's just, I mean, it's frustrating because
Highly frustrating.
it's not even just this. It's like a long list of behaviors.
Right.
And the problem is that you will have a bunch of women who go, well, this is not us. This is not all black. Look, it doesn't, people don't really see it that way. And I know they don't see it that way because they do this with black men all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter that there's always a small minority of criminal class black men and bad actors. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that there's a small class of degenerates. We know that. Every group has their degenerates. The problem is that those people get elevated among Black Americans.
Right, exactly.
And not only that, it's elevated in mainstream culture. You literally have, and we can argue about who's doing it and why they're doing it and who's responsible, because people have to sign off on this and they have to actually make decisions and they have to present themselves this way. Lizzo is signing off to present herself that way. It doesn't matter that somebody's paying you to get millions of dollars and all the other stuff. She's signing off on that. She still has to make a decision to present herself that way. So we can try to put the blame on other people. We can try to, we can take the degenerate behavior that and go, well, somebody's doing this. No, it doesn't matter. The person who's exhibiting that degenerate behavior is agreeing to do that, and they're doing it in a public way, and they're being very intentional about it. So it's a couple of things. It's ignorance, but the other part of it too is just look how rebellious I am. I just don't care. I can do what I want, and you can't do anything to stop me. And you know what? I don't care what you think about me. And the thing about it is, you have to care to some extent because you're going to get treated based off the way you behave.
Right.
You mentioned, well, men generally won't do stuff like this, and we won't. We're not going to do it. You know why?
Situational awareness.
There's immediate punishment for us, like almost for anything that we do.
Yes, absolutely.
With women, a lot of the time it's delayed. You can kind of explain it away, or you can try to explain it away, or you can just start screaming, I'm a woman. You can't treat me like, we can't do that. We don't have that luxury.
Not at all.
No one cares about men to the extent that you can just, be just outright unruly and obstreperous and demonstrate, openly rebellious behavior and just go against, public mores and norms and just good etiquette. We just can't do it. That's why you don't see it. And when it does happen, people get on other people. It can literally cost us our life. That's how serious it is for men. And acting, just go out in public and start wilding out, and see what happens. It
would not be good.
Yeah, it's been used as justification to put you down, and it will be justified, and people will see he was acting crazy. We were scared. Like there will always be justification to take you out, especially if it ends in if you get a serious injury or if it even ends in your life being gone. It doesn't matter. Right. Just get out here and start wilding out as a man, and that's how serious it is for us. That's why you generally don't see it. Even the men who generally are rebellious and just like, I don't care, you can't tell them. Even they will like tighten up in certain instances.
Right, and then also, what's not going to happen, even if they don't tighten up and they're rebellious, you're usually not going to hear. Correct if I'm wrong here, right? But you're usually not going to hear Black men going around and justifying it. Like if a dude is clearly on some Pookie and Ray Ray stuff, they're gonna be like, "Nah, you deserve that. You need to get locked up, or you deserve exactly what you got. Stop." Like they're not gonna sit here and try to say, "Oh, well, he was fighting for liberation, or he was trying to free his, ancestors and all this stuff." I'm gonna be like, "No, you are a mess. You need to go sit down somewhere, or you deserve to be locked up." Like they will clearly articulate that.
Yeah.
Whereas here, for some reason, it's like we want to make all these excuses. And, another thing that I hear too sometimes is when we start to hear seeing Black women going on acting a fool. It's like, oh, well, these aren't Black American women, and it's like, yeah, they are. And let's just like the one I showed you.
Yeah.
She was with a couple of women. I don't know if they were all Black American.
Yeah.
The different posts that I saw showed that these women they were from America, so they certainly have citizenship there, as much as we know. I don't know if like maybe some are from the Caribbean or some. I don't know, but the one that I showed you, she's Black American. Like the stripper, she for sure.
Yeah.
The one that posted, she for sure is Black American. But nevertheless, it doesn't matter.
I was gonna say, yeah, no, that's gonna matter anyway.
Is she Caribbean? If she African?
Yeah.
If she from Honduras? The thing is, they're just seeing Black women. They're
Exactly.
other races, other people who run society, right? People in position of power. They're not sitting around and being like, oh, okay, let me double check your birth certificate. Like, no, they're seeing a Black face, period. And that's another thing that women don't understand. It's like how these implications, just how the implications work, and how Black people, we may try to make the distinctions, but other people aren't going to go through the burden of doing that.
They don't care enough to make the distinction.
They don't care.
Why would they?
They don't, and they probably never will.
So look, and at some point, it's gotta look. It's very easy to make the leap from, oh, this is already what I think about you anyway. You guys are just reinforcing it.
Right.
You guys already demonstrate Jezebel behavior. You're basically that sapphire behavior. That's part of it too. They love the mammyism, but because that helps them out. But that rebellious and the shaking the just all the negative mannerisms and understand when other people who are not Black actually quote unquote impersonate or try to say they're acting Black. This is what they're emulating.
What they go to.
Right. I go. What do you mean? You're acting Black like Dr. King? Because Dr. King was an intellectual.
Right.
James Baldwin was an intellectual. You see what I'm saying? So those are the men that I go to.
Right.
Malcolm X, an intellectual.
Right.
Frances Cress Welsing, if you're a woman, highly intellectual. So I'm acting Black like them. Yeah, that's when I think about that. That's what I'm thinking about. But that's not what people who either or low level thinkers. And I understand this is people in the Black race too. So I'm not just gonna put it on non-Black folks, but they just don't have the mental span to make the difference and to separate the good people from the bad ones. They don't do that. They don't have the mental span to do it, nor do they have the mental energy or the desire. They just don't do it. So this hurts. This not only hurts them, but this also hurts you. That's why I say that's what I'm like, she's taking this personal. I'm like, yeah, she should, because this is how women need to take it. And it needs to be a collective thing. Right now, we're on Dr. Umar's behind right now. Everybody's on his bumper. All the men are angry at him. There are women who are uplifting him. We ain't praising him for the stuff that he's saying. We're on his bumper and he needs to feel it. But stuff like this, these women need to feel it, and then it needs to be to the extent that there should be like a lot more noise about just this kind of degenerate behavior. It's getting to I can understand having a good time at the BET Awards and all the other stuff, and kind of having a little fun and just kind of dancing a little bit. But then who's that woman? She first of all, she looks real ratchet. She looks real.
She had a stack of money.
Okay, she looked.
So I'm like, at this point, like I said, again, I'm not against dancing. I'm not saying that you can't do it. Context is important. Situational awareness is important. Yeah. And the bigger issue is that it's just this constant push that Black women are like strippers and prostitutes. That's what's being pushed. And then those are the women who are either living that or willing to buy into that narrative are the ones who are being promoted.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Look, and media
Right.
And media has never been. Media, has the history of Black folks in media, it's never really been positive. But the issue is like we don't do ourselves any favors.
No, you should be able to find you should be able to just type that in and it pops right up and there's a dozen videos.
Exactly.
You should have to work hard to find something like that if you can find it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like that shouldn't even be a thing. And I hate that twerking and just acting a fool. And because this is again, twerking on boys, twerking on tables in nice restaurants in the middle of the day.
No.
And then you're mad because nobody wants to marry you. I'm gonna tell you something, Shay. I was actually dating a woman at one point, and she embarrassed me. She I don't know what she was jealous about or what the whole thing was about. That woman's looking at me, and I don't like how she's looking at me. I'm like, that woman's not doing anything. It's like she wanted. It's just like she was trying to instigate an incident when there was nothing there. And I'm like, that woman wasn't looking at you. She certainly wasn't looking at me. She hadn't said a word to me, and I don't know why you're trying to instigate an incident and elevate this into something that it isn't. It didn't take me it wasn't very long before I saw a few other incidents, and I got that I couldn't get away from that woman fast enough. Yeah, she had ghetto ratchet tendencies from the beginning, not really hardcore, but my whole thing is that I didn't really see it right away. That's why when people say, "Well, I didn't," what do you call it? I didn't see all the red flags. Yeah, you saw them. They were there. Yeah. But at any rate, it's just, this is affecting you as well. So I can see why you're taking that personally, because again, nobody's gonna make the mental leap or try to separate the good women from the bad ones. All of them are bad as far as they're concerned.
Right. I do have a few people in the back. I want to make sure I give them enough time. If you guys can just flash your face in the back, just want to make sure it's like a real person.
Yeah, let me go ahead and I'll go ahead and drop that. I don't have too much else to add. I just wanted to kind of give you some perspective on that, and that you're absolutely right. And this is, man, I don't know what we're supposed to do. If we can't correct you, or we don't have the authority or the power to tell you what to do, and then you're just going to be out here, wilding out all over the place, you should never expect to get to the point where, don't be 35 years old complaining nobody wants to marry you. We're just not going to want to hear it.
If you're a stripper and a whore, that's not the lifestyle that you've chosen. So.
Yeah, but anyway, I'll go ahead and bring other people up.
Okay, I'm gonna bring somebody else on. Okay, let's start. I think you were here first, B Law. What's going on, B Law?
Hey Shay, how it's been? You all right?
Yeah, no complaints.
Brother Kevin, it's good to see you. It's been a while.
Likewise.
Here's the thing, Shay. Let's just call it what it really is. This is why when we talk about conversations when it comes to our community, this is a perfect catalyst and an example of when you make Black women a permanent victim class in America. They can now utilize it as a crutch to basically do no wrong, because now, they call themselves a double minority. They call themselves all these other things. It gives them an excuse to be able to lash out and act in ways that normally other people can. This permanent sort of mindset, it's almost like it reinforces this mindset of, since I'm a victim, I can be rebellious. Since I'm a victim, I can be I can go out there and be authentically me and Black girl magic and all these other things. And what it's doing is that it's not promoting the best versions of who you are. You would think that for once, just being real here, you would think for once that you would, you consider yourselves one of the fastest growing, business owners, educated women, etc., all these other things. You would think that you would want to lean on those things as a form of promoting yourself. Instead, what you do is you use your victim status, is what I like to call it, and you go out there and you make a literal fool of yourselves to the entire world. And then people are like, well, how are they the most educated and some of the most highest business owners, but they shaking their ass with $10,000 in hand? So basically you used your education and you used your business mindset to get money to use as a justification to act a fool on the internet.
Right.
Is that like it's like, hold on, where's the goals here? Like you have to eventually ask yourself the question, since when does becoming a victim give you a justification to also be a fool? Like there's no middle ground there. I don't understand it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that women don't deserve to be educated, but you're you're also the most liberated, the most freest, the most educated, the most powerful, the most capable women on the planet. This is a first world country. No other places in the world other than other first world countries allow this level of liberation and freedom to our women. And this is how you use the privilege that you're given? This is how you represent yourself? Like there comes a point in time where you have to ask yourself the question, are you even a victim? Well, you're not a victim, clearly, because if you were a victim, you wouldn't be dancing over the graves of actual victims.
Yeah, and and that's where it gets complicated, I think, too, because I don't sit here and pretend that there isn't, like, there are still areas in our system that are unfavorable to Black folks, to minorities in general. I think that still exists in some level.
Absolutely.
But with that said, it's like, it does not help at all when we see willing participants, Black women in the community, who go and make us look horrible. And that's
terrible. Absolutely.
Because
yes,
like, imagine, we're over here talking about reparations, Black folks talking about reparations, and then you see Black women going and disrespecting themselves on a freaking like slave quarters, right? Or Black women twerking on babies and kids, like doing the most degenerate stuff, and then over here crying and wanting reparations and wanting a check. Like that's not it's not a strong case. And well, different ways I think that this can impact. I don't think there's a full understanding, especially of those who are in positions of power and promoting these ideas and promoting these this supposed liberation, not understanding how this can impact other movements that the Black community may actually want.
Well, this is the reason why most people don't even support their movements, because let's be real here. Let's go even further. Mm-hmm. Black women are the only women on the planet that separate themselves from Black men as if they're their own entity, right? So they almost act like they're separate from Black men, but then they also want help from Black men at the same time. So it's weird. Perfect example. They did the same thing with Ice Cube when he was sitting there trying to do a whole production deal, and he did it for Black people, and all the Black women got on him, pissed off, because they said, "Well, what about Black women?" I said Black people, for crying out loud. It benefits both Black women and Black men. That's the reason why he did it for Black people. We're two sides of the same coin. Whether you like us or not, whether we hate each other or not, we're still two sides of the same coin. I mean, I can never get rid of you, Black woman, and you can never get rid of me. We are two and the same. I need you, you need me. We got our problems, I get it. But at the end of the day, when it comes, we have to understand that you don't ever want to be hated as much as Black men are hated in this world. I don't ever want Black women to deal with that. Like, I'm 6'2", 225. When I go walk outside, if I wear a wife beater and a normal shirt, I'm immediately putting the fear of God in somebody. Yeah. I am immediately considered a threat to someone. I train and work out every single day. I'm pretty damn good in shape, and I'm pretty freaking buff. If I walk down or step down on someone, they are asking questions. If I go walk out, if I go walk into a high class building, there is a cop not too far behind me. Like, I don't think Black women want to understand the natural level of fear that Black men induce just walking around. I don't ever want Black women to deal with that to anywhere near the degree that we do. But now, because of this debaucherous behavior, they're called. Now, I couldn't tell you the amount of people just assume Black women are dirty. Black women are sexual exploitative sex objects, and are not considered wifeable. I couldn't tell you how many people will. And I'm not just saying it from Black men's perspective. I'm saying it because other races of men are literally putting them in that category. We will make you a baby mama, but we will not make you a wife. It's like you can talk about it with Black men as well. But I mean, I can't tell you the amount of white men that will say that openly and honestly. We can't talk about the many Indian men. I know Indian men that are like, I wouldn't even be in the same neighborhood with a Black woman. These are men that are saying this openly and honestly, and then you sit here and you're like, oh, well, we can change our image. We can be strong. We can do all of these things. I'm like, great. But the minority of you that act like this will forever tarnish the reputation. It's already happened to us. We got to deal with this for the rest of our lives. I have to wear a business suit just so that way I could get into certain doors. If I don't look professional and I have a certain level of vernacular and a sense of self-identity and a certain way of how I carry myself, I'm not going to be able to handle and close deals. If
Right.
I could be the same man that day, go to the 24-hour fitness and meet the same person. I come out the gym just sweating. I look like I didn't just got done hitting up a rack and I'm fully buffed up. That same person would be terrified of me.
Yeah.
Like I don't want women to deal with that, but they're making it harder for themselves. Black women are starting to become the new face of crime. Black women are starting to become the new face of degeneracy. Black women are starting to become the new face of a lot of these issues, and I don't want them to go through these issues because we already have. Black women are becoming. And they're also. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So I know Dida said you've been waiting. I have a few other in the back I want to get to. So Dida said, what's going on?
Not much. How are you?
Good. So what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Have you been to Ghana?
Not to Ghana. I've been to Tanzania and Zanzibar. I haven't been to that particular, but I went to the site in Zanzibar.
Nice. That's next on my list.
Mm-hmm.
B-Law and Kelvin. Kevin, have you been to Ghana?
No, not yet.
No.
No.
Okay.
But I definitely think there's no way that Ghana would find it perfectly fine for somebody to twerk on a gravesite. I don't care. Where you are.
Right now, I think that's the least of their worries. So I've been to Ghana multiple times, once with my sorority and then once during the Year of Return, which was a really big time for tourism in West Africa in general. There's so many Black women, so many Black men from America and throughout the diaspora that traveled through Ghana and went to Cape Coast. The Elmina castles are the Elmina dungeons, which is where this whole thing took place constantly on a yearly basis. It's more of a site for international people than it is for actual Ghanaians. Many Ghanaians in Cape Coast usually visit with their schools or if they get an opportunity to, but for the most part, it's for those of us in the diaspora. That being said, there are way too many instances of women and men traveling to Elmina and being completely respectful and understanding and solemn for this to eclipse the entire image of Black women. So if there's someone who's doing that and saying, oh, well, I saw these 4 women, so now I think all Black American women, they've already had that idea of Black American women and they were just looking for a justification. But on a daily basis, there are people that pillage to Elmina and this doesn't happen. So I think it's a bit far-fetched to say this is the way that Black women are demeaning themselves. And now we're going to be, what did you call us? Degenerates and crazy things like that?
Yeah, they're the face of degeneracy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they are.
That was super sensationalized, don't you think?
No, absolutely not. Because you need to understand. You know what? I'm my bad, Kevin. You can go. My bad.
Yeah, just real quick. Absolutely not. It's already here. Look, and you're absolutely right, Ms. D. You're absolutely correct. I absolutely believe when you say that hundreds, probably thousands of people go there every day and they actually move around in a way that's respectful, with dignity, and they actually appreciate and understand, and they deal with the enormity of the emotions associated with that specific site, because there's a lot of emotion associated with that. But this one event can literally eclipse all of that. So yeah, I would disagree.
It hasn't yet, so I guess that's just your theory.
Well, here's the reason why I'm saying it, because it's funny. When it came to the passport bros, majority of them in that whole scenario with men traveling overseas, there are so many men that do really, really well. But yet you see articles almost every time whenever there's one Black man that does something wrong. And that's all it took to paint the passport bros in a negative light. So I find it very interesting how you're like, oh, no, this isn't true. When in reality, that same instance is happening right now in real time when it comes to these women in Guyana. So I find that, it's the same thing with Jamaica and women sleeping with all of the men on the bamboo. It's the same thing. This is what happens when so we have to realize the level of power that we have as American people here, especially Black American people. If we are the people that are known for having the ability to control culture across a multitude of lines all across the world, then that means that we're under a very heavy magnifying glass of actions that we watch. And many people from all over the world watch what we do. and they're influenced by what we do, which means that at any point and at any time we do anything that's negative, it will be way more heavily criticized than the average man or woman. That's just the truth that we have to deal with. So I find it to be kind of a hypocritical statement for you to say that's not a big of a deal when we know, in fact, that we have the ability to influence music, culture, fashion, design, and media on a daily basis. So when you go out there and you twerk your ass on a goddamn Ghanaian slave ship place or monument or whatever you want to call it, yes, it's going to be way more heavily scrutinized. There are black men that were scrutinized just for getting swiped in Colombia, and there were Americans that were black men. It's the same thing that's going to happen to you. You're going to get just as much smoke. It's an inevitable truth that all black American people, whether you're black or white, newsflash, across the world, they don't call us black. They call us Americans.
Yeah, I've actually traveled there, so I know, but thank you for that. So I'm not hypocritical about Passport Bros. I haven't said anything about Passport Bros. I think that's just something you're passionate about.
I'm
And in the same way that you literally just
said.
said that we're under a magnifying glass because everything we do is a pretty big deal. We influence pop culture throughout the world. Do you truly believe that people are going to see this one video and surmise everything they know about Black women? Or are they going to digest more and more media about Black women to see how often this occurs? And if we're specifically talking about this instance in Ghana, in Cape Coast, then if people did their research, they would understand this is not a normal occurrence. It went viral because it was abnormal.
Yeah, but I think the problem with that is that I hear what you're saying, but this assumes that Black people in general are essentially on the same level or perceived in the same level as other cultures. Like there's this assumption that we are always innocent, that we are always respectful, and then in maybe rare instances, the problem with that thinking is that Black Americans in general, we're already starting at the bottom as far as our image is concerned, right? There's always been this negative perception that we've had to fight against. If you think about the term the Black tax, right? When it comes to you having to work harder in certain corporate settings or white-owned settings, it's because there's always this assumption that Black people have to deal with that says, well, you're this or you're that, or you're not that, you're not that. And so that to this day still lives in the mindsets of other races of people. It's not going away. And so when you're saying like, oh, well, one instance is not going to completely ruin the image of Black women, it's like, I think we're forgetting that Black women already pretty much have an image that has been ruined or is just not positive. And people may not say it, but they believe it when you actually look at some of the analytics and the data, when you look at different resources. And so all it takes is one instance to go viral for them to say, see, I already believe that. Confirmation bias. And so a person going back and saying, okay, well, this is just one instance, but let me go look at the stats. Let me go look at other instances. A lot of people aren't going to be that thorough. They're not going to do that research. They're not going to go and say, okay, well, Black women did it over there, but how about the 10 Black women who didn't? They don't care. They're coming with confirmation bias. And that's exactly what they're saying when it's like Black men, even if they are educated, even if they have all the law degrees or whatever, they go into a room, you see women grabbing bags, locking doors, grabbing their purses, right? That's what Black men have to deal with. And so Black women, in the same way, it may not be that particular stereotype, but we have our own stereotypes that have always been here that we are contending with. So that's why when I'm saying you have this and my agree, forget about the overall perception. I just think the act itself is disrespectful. I don't know where she went. Again, when you have that happening, then you add, what was going on?
I was going to see, maybe you can bring it back because I actually had a question for her. But.
Yeah, I don't know if she just dropped off or.
Well, that's the thing, Shay. Like I just, my whole point is that. See, this is just goes to show how far gone we are as a people. Like we have no problem putting our dirty laundry on the internet. We have no problem putting our debaucherous character on the internet. We have no problem making a fool out of ourselves purely for entertainment. And then we always, for some reason, decide to put it on the internet. They could have easily have done that very act and not posted the video. This just goes to show the level of how low we value ourselves and our image as a people, or as a whole. Because I find it crazy how we'll utilize these examples and these justifications for these actions, but I have never seen Indian men make a fool of themselves on the internet.
Right.
I've never seen Asian men make a fool of themselves all over on the internet. That's like, so it's like, when I hear this, I'm like, where is the self-love for ourselves? When is the standard going to be higher for ourselves? I don't see there are women out there doing the same thing on the internet. Now, do they probably do it in real life? Absolutely. I'm pretty sure they do. But do they post it and potentially desecrate their image and how people perceive them on the internet? No, because they have a certain level of standard for themselves. And that's the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying. I'm not saying it in terms of, I know that we have beautiful, amazing Black women, and I know we have a beautiful and amazing Black men, but all it takes is consistency of a certain particular set of actions before it's considered pattern recognition. The reason why I strike fear into people is because of pattern recognition. I have to deal with that pattern recognition. The reason why many people don't want Black women going into stores and going into restaurants with bonnets on is because they see Black women all the time wearing a bonnet, and they think that that's very unprofessional and uncouth, and it's a lack of having a sense of maintenance of self and a sense of hygiene, that they don't want Black women coming into restaurants with a goddamn bonnet on their head. It's like, why is the level set so low for us when everybody else sets the level so high for themselves?
Well, so it's not so much that, it's just that, I think Shay already talked to this. There's already a level of confirmation bias. There's already negative stereotypes and everything else. We just don't need to add to it. And okay, so right. And Ms. D is back real quick, and I'll just say this specifically to her, and so she can respond if she wants to. But you're giving. I think you're talking about non-Black people, and you're giving them way too much credit. They're not. You're talking about they're going to do research. They're not going to do 2 seconds of research, much less 2 minutes, much less 2 hours. They won't even take 2 milliseconds to even consider doing any more research to find out this is not the image. This is how most people who are not Black think, and I can only go by their behavior and what it is they do on a regular basis.
I agree.
And if you say I'm judging them, I actually am judging them. Matter of fact, I go so far to say is they do not have the mental span, the mental capability, or the even desire or interest to separate the good Black people from the bad Black people. I at least try to do that because I'm a Black man and I actually understand all of this and the ramifications behind it. But I can guarantee you, non-Black people, they don't think about it for 1 second. All of y'all, as far as they're concerned, that was all 100% Black women on top of that cap, on top of that castle. That's what it was.
Yep. Yeah. I want to share this real quick. I think it is, D-Sex, if you want to respond, feel free to. But I wanted to share this real quick just to add a little bit of context, because I know sometimes things can be hard to believe without some context. I've shared this in the past, and I have plenty of more sources, but just for conversation's sake, when we're talking about the overall perception as it pertains to dominant society, white society, classical Americans, right, who are primarily the ones in power, white men who are primarily the ones in power today in the US, we want to remember that perceptions are still different. And I break this down. I break this down also in other videos that I've done. I did a couple of videos about some research that I found more recently about just dating standards and how race plays a huge role in overall perceptions. But this one in particular, it's called A Body Does Not Compare, right? And it is a study that was done from the University of Colorado border. And it basically, again, deals with the perception that white men generally have of Black female, their beauty, their behavior, and all of that. And so when we're talking about confirmation bias, that's what we're talking about. And I don't want to get too much in the details because I want the conversation to continue. But if you just look at this one line right here, it really, I think, sums up what we're talking about. Here it says, just the term Black woman conjures up thoughts of an overweight, dark-skinned, loud, poorly educated person with gold teeth yelling at somebody in public. I hope that doesn't make me racist, but honestly, that's the first thing I think of. Lee, middle-class white man in his 30s from Florida. So when we're talking about confirmation bias, and we are talking about how we are perceived, the image that I'm talking about, and the way some of the things that can be perceived as small, or the things that we do that are disrespectful, how they impact us, we have to remember that we are facing this perception. Black women in particular are already facing this perception that many other races of men have. This is just one quote from one man, but this overall study goes on to talk about how many white men hold these views, these racialized views of Black women. They're not going to say it because nobody wants to be shown as racist. Nobody wants to be shown as, misogynist or misogynoir. Like, they're not going to say it. They're never going to sit here and say, oh, Black women they have bad attitudes. Like, no white man is going to go in public and say that and be canceled. But behind closed doors, and when they're having conversations with their friend, or even when they're talking to other Black men, I know Black men personally who have had conversations with other races of men and then being like, look, I'm not really into Black women because of this, and that. That is what we're dealing with. So again, when I'm saying there's confirmation bias that's already going on, that is what I'm alluding to. That's just one of many sources that I have. So feel free to chime in, or if any of you guys only want to chime in, feel free to.
And here's the thing. I just want to say this real quick to Miss D. I don't want you to think that we're attacking you or coming at you or anything like that. Like that, I want you to understand that this is purely from being a Black man. I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to protect your image. I'm trying to make sure that, because the thing is that we already, as Black men and as Black women, are starting to get a negative image. Me as a Black man, I have a way worse image than you right now. It doesn't matter how good of a Black man I have to deal with these perceptions towards me until the day I die. The thing is that I already know Black women already have a negative perception. I don't want that perception to get worse. So although it may seem like we're just complaining, we're calling it out because we want to make sure that women that are good like yourselves or any other woman that's out there that travels in Guyana or whatever, we don't want that. We don't want people to start having more negative biases towards Black women, especially our sisters. We're saying this purely from a perspective of protection. We just want you to know that we're trying to protect you. I know it may seem like we're just complaining and stuff like this, but no, this is coming from the heart. We are trying to protect you, because we care enough about you that we don't want your image to get any worse. We want it to improve. We want our own image to improve. We're saying it purely from a perspective position, me and Mr. Kevin. I just want to make sure you understand my stance on that as to why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm appreciative of the conversation. I just hope we're listening to each other about the points that I made was not in defense of twerking. It's the idea that people across the world are taking bits and pieces of the internet and applying it in actual life. I've traveled internationally for a very long time, lived in Germany, lived in Abu Dhabi, went to Egypt, went to Kenya, went to Ghana. And my experiences are nothing like what you're telling me that they should be. And so it doesn't match up. Additionally, a great read that I read during undergrad is called Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram Kendi, who curated the 1619 Project. He talks about how when Black women, Black African women were brought over to the Americas, they were already deemed as sexual deviants in order to justify the, I don't know if I can use the R word,
sexual violation,
but the exploitation and abuse of their bodies sexually. So there was already the stigma placed on Black women before we had bonnets, before we were twerking, before all these things occurred. So the idea that we can now change what was already imprinted on our image if we are a certain way, when we have a majority of women coming to these countries and these places already behaving in a respectable way, but now we're saying all it takes is one, and somehow those are going to change the entire view, is just unrealistic, and we don't have any evidence of that.
But that's exactly the point. The point is there's already confirmation bias at work, and so this behavior, it certainly isn't helping.
It doesn't help, right? I agree with that. It doesn't help.
And my bigger point was I personally believe some of this I think can be a class thing for sure. I think that's because you're an educated woman. Because so in general, in certain classes, depending upon socioeconomic challenges or lack thereof, it produces certain behavior. But with that said, I was like, there were already these negative perceptions that were placed upon us, which justified us being mistreated. But now there's fast forward, and there's this culture where we are doing it to ourselves. And I know I've mentioned some of the Sukianas and the things that she said about herself. I've mentioned the Cardi B's. I've mentioned the Megan Steins, the Carishas. These are women who are now essentially promoting the very, very stereotypes that were put on us on purpose. But then now conflating that with Black culture, conflating that with African culture, and saying, "Oh, well, look, my great 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 grandma was a hoe, was a trick." There's a long line of tricks, goes all the way back to Egypt, and then you have a Lizzo who's like, "I'm twerking for my ancestors. I'm twerking for the prostitutes, for the strippers,
Ridiculous.
for my culture," and it's like putting them all on the same line is completely dishonorable and disingenuous. And if what you're saying is that there's already this negative perception about us, so it doesn't matter, right? If they're acting this way because that perception already exists. What I'm saying is, well, doing these negative things certainly isn't helping. And if we believe what's being said about this, us acting it out, women acting it out, is only going to make it worse. I think actually being respectful and honorable, and then engaging in things that are going to actually nation build and going to help create or instill a stronger culture that could help maybe create policies and create a system by which Black people are not subject to what you just said. I think that's a better option versus saying, "Oh, well, they already believe this about us, so then we're just gonna, it's not a big deal. We're just gonna do it anyways, and it doesn't matter." That's just
Justify it.
Right. Right.
I want to go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like, for what they're trying to do is use these stereotypes and try to normalize it. I mean, it's not normal. In fact, it's just very disrespectful to us as a people. I mean, like a little over a year ago, you had an African American female, sponsored by BLM, by the way, twerking at the Martin Luther King Monument. And I'm like, what the hell is this?
How do you get sponsored by BLM?
First of all, you don't equate twerking with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, I mean, it was just ridiculous. It's not African. The twerking is not African, and it's not empowering. Okay, it's buffoonish. It's that, and then you got these women over here twerking in Africa at this castle where our ancestors were sold. All this did was amplify the stereotypes of Black America, particularly Black American women. And and to say it's okay and we do this on a regular, it's not acceptable. It needs to stop. And more African American women that are against this need to speak out. Very disrespectful, very embarrassing as African American. Okay, I mean, come on now. And I mean, if you want to save the community, start by speaking out on the ratchet behavior. Black men speak out on behaviors of other Black men. Black women need to do the same thing instead of cheering it on and passing it off, pacifying it. It's not right. Sorry, I got a little.
No, it's fine. I want to think who hasn't. Jalen, the man of not. Have you spoken? I don't remember if you've spoken.
No, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, feel free to chime in if you want.
The women who start twerking, they're gonna get looked at as a sexual object and cum dancers. So if they don't want to get married, that's fine. Let them do their thing. Don't get mad, but man, treat them like cum dancers. So it's just what it is. It's how it is, man. Sorry, I was stuttering.
No,
my man chose violence. Okay.
I'm like,
man, what I said.
That's a pretty colorful way of saying it. But I've mentioned before, of course, negative perceptions, confirmation bias, all of that. But it certainly doesn't help if a woman presents herself in a way that is over sexualized. She's just going to make it herself more likely to be a target.
Especially when you're twerking on children.
Twerking on to me, that shouldn't even be in conversation. To me, I'm like, this is twerking at a child. To me, that I'm like, you should be like locked up somewhere, because
it's funny.
Man grinding on a young baby girl, we wouldn't be having this conversation. He'd be locked up.
Yeah, he'd be locked up in 2.5 seconds flat.
Yeah,
ain't no doubt about it.
We had a Rhode Island senator twerking for votes last year.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. Tierra Mack.
Yeah, there's
over there on the East Coast. It's crazy.
They're normalizing buffoonery.
Yeah,
and they're trying to frame it as this. And I think it's important that we mention this in this conversation. They're trying to frame it as ladies taking their bodily autonomy back. But here's my thing.
Okay.
Hold up your hands. If you can move your fingers of your own free will, you have bodily autonomy. Now, what bodily autonomy doesn't mean is that your actions aren't going to be scrutinized. It just means you can act and think for yourself.
Yeah.
So while I do hear you, D dissects down there in the bottom left, we understand that this is not the vast majority of Black women or Black people. We do understand that. But the reason why we're speaking about it so vehemently and with such passion in our voice is because when these people do these things, they're not thinking about Black people as a whole. They just straight up don't care. I say this all the time in my sociology classes and all this. When you're Black in this world, you're never just yourself. You represent more than yourself, whether you want to or not. That's just a fact. When people see you on the news or doing something great, they don't think just that's that one person. They think that's a Black person doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's just a fact. So
Yeah.
I encourage you to understand the space that Shay, Kevin, B, me are coming from. It's not a place of volatility. It's just that we have, check this out, we have female family members who we care much about. We have female friends who we care much about. We have even girlfriends and wives who we care very much about. This behavior impacts them negatively. So you have to swat it down with the force of God whenever it comes out, because whether they understand it or not, the people who post the video, this harms Black women.
Right.
Make no mistake about it.
It's kind of like, too, for example, we can think of the deadbeat dad narrative about Black men, right? And how Black men aren't, there's all these single parent households that Black men are creating. And the reality today that over 50% of Black men in America are single and childless. And how when you analyze the data or look at it more acutely, you see that it is a minority of Black men who are creating a lot of these single parent households. Yet those minority of men have helped create a huge problem and a huge narrative that impacts all Black men, whether they have kids or are single and are in school or have multiple kids. Like, it impacts all.
Less than 20% of the Pookies and Ray Rays.
Right. So that's how it is for Black women. That's essentially what we're saying. It's like all it takes, sometimes is a handful. Now, the positive thing I always see is, like, to me, all it takes also is just a handful to help to try to control, to try to change things too. But it's also like, we have to recognize that there is a bit of an uphill battle when it comes to some of these different narratives and what that means. And feeding into stereotypes certainly doesn't help. I think we can all agree on that. Herc Owen, I think you have not spoken yet.
How you doing, sis? It's an honor to be on your podcast here. I just want to briefly say a few things. I believe that those young ladies that pretty much dissed our ancestors were kind of set up to stage that, and it could have been, say, other elements, anti-Black, pro-white supremacist elements that could have supported that, because this is the day and age of reparations, as we all know, and we're quickly and effectively making and gaining some headway with the question of reparations. So someone could have staged this, could have sponsored them. I would like to know who their sponsors were, or if they paid if they actually got their own passports and went on their own. I would like to examine that a little bit closer. Was this some kind of staged event to disrespect the ancestors and disrespect the descendants of slaves? A lot of these questions come to mind because today we're very, diligent and, strong-headed and moving, and the movement of reparations is very powerful. It's gaining momentum. So, you know, better opportunity for someone who wants to sabotage um, those efforts by twerking on the ancestors, twerking at the Elmina Castle. You know, I just thought I'd just throw that out there.
Yeah.
All right. So
Also,
yeah,
I
with
want
stuff
to tell
like
you what
that,
happened to me.
go ahead, bro.
I was called the F word and called gay because I said twerking disgusting. Some Simpson black women call me the F word and gay. That's it.
Well, I think in certain social settings, it can be disgusting. Like we all know and remember that True Kitchen and Cocktail situation of those black ladies up here in Dallas twerking over those people's food. Now that's actually disgusting. And so in certain social settings, in certain situations, yeah, I can see that why you'd see that as disgusting, and I don't even disagree with you. But here's what I really want to send home. You would think that it would be mainly black women spearheading this campaign against public twerking because of that fact that it hurts black women when certain black women basically keep alive this whole Jezebel stereotype, this Sapphire Jezebel stereotype. So it just shows you how lost some people are, because if they were looking at it from a top-down perspective and they truly and really understood what is happening of their perception from outside sources and from, hate to say it, but even some people inside the race, then they would really have a bigger issue with it than they already do. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a moment for Candace Owens, and she's going to use stuff like this as ammunition to further denigrate black people. And she's black
Yep.
herself. Just
Facts.
the Candace Owens, the Larry Elders, the Brandon Tatums, all those folks. That's what they do, and we don't need to give them any more ammunition. And I'll say something else too. Look, so I've been talking to other people, and every now and then I go on a panel where there's mixed race of folks. Sometimes they're white, sometimes they're Hispanic, whatever. And and I'll do my level best to actually try to defend black people to some extent. But everybody who is not black absolutely thinks they're better than black people. They absolutely think that. And matter of fact, when I try to defend black women, they throw stuff out. Well, hey, we're more married than your women are. We have more marriages. We have this. We have that. Like they literally, you guys are in competition with every other woman on the planet, just for respectability. That's where you are with that. It's so bad that other people literally could say with their whole chest, fingers and thumbs pointed at you in a very judgmental way, like we're better than you. Y'all can't even get married. Y'all can't get this. You can't get that. You don't have this. You don't have that. That pisses me off. It really does. And I take a lot of and when they get me with a gotcha moment, now I got my moments with them too. When they do their degenerate stuff and I call that out. But literally, they can always point to, well, it's more on your side than it is on ours. Therefore, we're still better than you. We need to actually get better at the collective, both on the men and women's side, so we can throw that junk back in their faces and actually
Brother
get better
Kevin.
as a collective.
Brother Kevin.
That really does get to me.
Brother Kevin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a bone to pick with you, brother. You said that you and the brothers was on Dr. Umar's bumper. Why?
Well, because he's saying a bunch of stuff that's just not effective as far as what black men should do. It's not practical.
You don't think that black men should be responsible for their community? That we should take the lead to correct the behavior of our young men?
Yeah,
we don't need to be taking responsibility for kids that are not ours.
Exactly. I was going to get to that, but yeah.
That's so individualistic. Awesome job.
You're goddamn right. I'm getting sick of it. I'm not taking back to Pookie Ray Ray's kid.
Okay, but then you brothers have then y'all have big brothers or mentors, people that took you under your wing to kind of show you trades or invite you to apprenticeships. That's what he's saying. He's not saying that we need to go to go into a unmarried woman's house and basically bring her and her kids into our homes. He's not saying that. He's just saying that we need to basically say, get out there and establish that mentorship.
I get
Be
all of that.
involved in young men's lives a little bit more than we're doing.
I
That's
can
all.
support that. I can support that.
There's
But
a young
I
man
can
named
support
King
that.
Randall that's been
Right.
doing that for the past few years.
Right.
And
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
the school. Them Negroes trashed the school the other day.
Yeah, did you guys see that? Yeah,
When
somebody
did
got
that
trashed at
happen?
school.
The
Yeah,
other day.
Just a few days ago. But check this out. So I think that's Herc that said that. Look, I can support that. Here's the deal. The father
Mhm.
is the first line supervisor, instructor, and teacher, mentor, coach, counselor, disciplinarian, and all that other stuff. Guidance.
Agreed.
And so everything else you just said, everything from additional schools to coaches to other
Mhm.
mentors and all that other stuff,
Right.
those are secondary and tertiary. You still need the father figure. You still need an absolute father. All of those
Agreed.
kids
Agreed. Definitely.
that Dr. Umar is talking about, they all have fathers. Where are the fathers? They need to get in those homes, and if they're not going to get in the homes, they need to actually be active and participating parents to the children that
Right.
they
Well,
produce.
I think he was talking about. I think he was basically talking about young men who don't have that father figure image or don't have
But
anyone,
they have.
and
See, this is
they
the
spend more time around women, and that's not a good look. The thing is that they may not have an uncle, or a big brother or something like that. Someone setting a good example, for them to look, because we all do need that physical. I mean, growing up as a kid, I had that. My grandfather played a very important role in my life, and we were like, say, two generations apart. And so we do need that father figure, that male figure that can say, "Hey, look, uh, watch me and do as I do." We need that.
I do
I
not disagree with
mentored
you on
as a
that.
young man, and the more things change, the more things remain the same.
I agree with you on that. Your grandfather, the uncles, and all that other stuff. Again,
Hmm.
those are secondary and tertiary male mentors. The principal mentor is the father. And now most of these kids these women are talking about, they don't have fathers. The fathers are alive. They know where the fathers are. It's on the women. The women already picked the father. They already
That's
picked the
right.
guy who they produced. So this idea that these men are not available, it's not true. Those men are there. There's very few widows. There's very few men who are incapacitated mentally or physically to the point where they can't be active fathers. The majority of those fathers are available. They are alive. So why aren't those fathers in those children's lives? Me as a secondary, instructor or teacher, I have no issue with that. But I'm always going to find out. And matter of fact, the first person I should contact and go through is the father, not some woman. And then especially if we have a situation now where we have women who have, 3, 4 kids by 3 or 4, by, at least 2, sometimes 3 or 4 different men. That is not a tenable situation. And not only are we upset with Dr. Umar about the way he's explaining it, he's not holding any of the women to any account or responsibility for their part in the situation. And then on top of that, he's not even practicing it himself. I didn't even know
Yeah,
he had his own daughters. I
he
didn't even
got
know
two baby
that.
mamas himself.
Yeah. So where are his children that he's mentoring on literally his own offspring? If he's not doing it for his own offspring, how can you actually preach and be judgmental and actually cajole and try to shame other men when you're not even doing what it is you're talking about? When
Exactly.
he's the
You
first
take
he's
all
the
the
first
accountability off the
example.
black women and put
Yeah.
it all on the black men when it's the black women that willingly sleep with the Pookies and Ray Rays and have all these multiple children. It's
Yeah, so
not
that's
right,
that's the issue that the men have with this.
That's the issue we
Like
got with Umar.
yeah. And that's a
Mm.
legitimate concern. That's a legitimate beef. And then the other part of it too is, and look, I know we're talking about this whole. I know we kind of got off a little bit, and I want to get back on topic because I don't
Yeah.
want to take over Shay's discussion with this. But he's just this literally. It's literally wrong the way he presented it. It's basically, if you didn't know any better, and I actually had somebody present it this way. If you didn't know any better, if you close your eyes and listen to what Dr. Umar was talking about, he may as well have been a white man just actually spouting, supremacist talking points against black men.
He might as well have been a Cynthia G.
Yeah, I did kind of detect a little bit of that too. I want to say for the record that I agreed with about 70% of what he said. I didn't agree with everything he said because, and as you the point you made, as you, that you made, he has say hasn't been say up to his best either. You know, he hasn't basically followed through on a lot of the things that he was supposed to do. You know, for the community. So yeah, I'm well aware of that.
Yeah, he needs to stick to his education piece, his child psychology piece, and working on getting that school up and running. If he
And
does
build
that
that
and
damn
stays away
school
from
already.
relationships, we can get back behind him and actually, help him get that school up. But if he's not going to do any of that, he's just
Right,
going to
but
chastise black men
right,
and not
but I
hold
would right,
and not hold women to account for their part in
right, right,
whatever
right.
mess has been created. Then that's a problem as well. He
But
basically gave,
I
he
would right.
basically gave women a free pass to do what it is they want to do and behave how they want to behave and twerk all over the place and make kids all over the place and be irresponsible and make bad life decisions and said, you, Herc, are responsible for all of that. And you have no control, you have no authority, you have no resources, you have no way to discipline anybody, and you can't tell anybody what to do. But somehow, in some
That's true. That's
crazy,
true.
circuitous, unusual, ridiculous way, in some bizarro universe, you are responsible for all of that as a man. So don't come to me with collectivism if you're not going to give me collective authority, collective discipline, collective resources, and collective help. I don't want to hear any of that. I'm telling you, black men are getting tired of that. They're literally getting tired of it. Everybody else can't be out here doing it as they want to do, running back wild, making a mess that we got to come up and clean up behind them and actually fix. And it's not just for, specifically for even the people in our own group. There are people who come over and cross over to black people, create a mess, splatter stuff all over the place, and expect black men to clean that mess up too. Because I'll tell you something else too. All of those kids that he's talking about are not all black men's kids. That's another problem. You got
That's
white
true.
men, Hispanic
That's
men,
true.
even some Asian men coming over to black women doing the exact same thing that they accuse Black Pookie of doing. Making kids, not marrying these women, abandoning these kids. Not only that, these kids also have the additional challenge of being mixed race in a society where they got to deal with the issues on one side and the issues on the other side. And they're trying to dump those responsibilities on black men. This idea where everybody gets to make this sloppy mess that black men got to clean up and nobody else gets to be responsible, absolutely not. That is a no-go. So that's
Yeah.
the issue we have with
I
Dr.
was
Umar.
talking to my husband. That's a whole topic entirely. But I did a few responses to different snippets. I didn't hear the whole interview because I know it was a long interview, but I got like half of it. But my initial thought was, if the whole idea is to help try to build a better Black community, I know Dr. Umar is really passionate about that. Communities are made up of families, right? Multiple different families that come together to make a community. That's like, families are pretty much step one. So if there aren't families, then there really isn't a community. Like it doesn't really exist. There's not all these like just individual random people like that. That's just like a basic fundamental aspect of the community. It's made up of families, right? So that's why I'm like, for what I was hearing, the different things that he was wanting Black men to do, the different stepfather, the programming and the mentoring and taking on all these schools, that to me, I'm like, that's kind of like advanced level community building. That's the kind of stuff that you do once you've already mastered like the basics, right? Having like healthy, functioning families. And we don't even really have that. And it doesn't sound like he has a family. I mean, I think he has 2 daughters, but I don't think he's married. He's never been married. So that's to me, the ideas to me didn't really seem realistic because I'm like, you're over here trying to talk advanced calculus and we haven't even gotten through like the ABCs. Like we need to talk about, keeping a family together. And if you have kids, in his instance, he has 2 kids. I don't understand why he's not married to the women or, committed to them. I don't understand what that's about. And because like, to me, that's just like hecka basic. Like we're not even.
Isn't married to
Well, shoot, it's not even about being basic. It's way past the point of being basic. We can't even get along and have a conversation through the fucking internet. Like we can't even stand each other long enough to even be in the same room with each other long term. If we can't even do that, how do we expect to even have tangible relationships? How do we even have tangible long-term relationships? The average relationship in the Black community, when it comes between heterosexual male and woman, when it comes to a heterosexual relationship, the average relationship, and this is excluding marriage, is 5 years. Our average relationship length, if we exclude marriage, is 5 years average. That means that we can't even make it to a goddamn decade. That means a normal man and a normal woman can't even be with each other long enough to tolerate each other for longer than 5 years. That's just how short term our relationships are on average.
Right.
And we're talking about the love. We're talking about the lovey-dovey, good, all that good jazz. But hey, that's plenty long enough for a kid to be born in this world. That's plenty long enough for child support and alimony and all these other issues that we could possibly deal with and that come up and rear their heads. So we can easily utilize that as a justification to enforce a potential relationship. But we're not even at the point where we can get along to where we can even improve our own image. We're sitting here having a debate on how black women should portray their own image, when the easiest solution to this entire problem would be, it's real simple. If you want to change your image, and mind you, black women know that they can do this. If you want to change your image almost immediately within a year or two's time, stop posting twerking shit on the internet. Stop posting violence on the internet. Stop using your phones to help further promote the very stereotypes that you claim that you are not. Stop doing the very thing, and mind you this, the ones that post it are your own black women. So I find it to be kind of odd how you say, or you wanted to make these accusations and make these defenses on behalf of black women, but yet you have another black woman that does the very thing that you're defending against. If you want to change your image, do the very thing that you don't see Indian women do, that you don't see Asian women do.
I don't think we need the example of other women or other cultures. I think we have that. I come from listen, I was born in the 60s, okay? I was born in 1965. I remember when black folks used to go to church. I remember when black people were very spiritual people, educated people. I'm talking about black African Americans. We don't need any foreign example. Okay. All we need to do is clean up our own act. You know, we've had great men like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We've had great men like Malcolm X. We have people that can basically check the community and bring the community and put the community back on a straight and narrow path in order to uplift ourselves as a people. We can do it ourselves. The answer is in us. The solution is in us.
Listen. I know we can do it ourselves. And as a matter of fact, because you're from the 60s is exactly why I'm saying it. Because we did it before. I find it crazy that when we utilize those same examples, you know what the black women tell you? That was then, this is now. As a matter of fact, they go against the very examples that you just gave, which is even more asinine. So the reason why I'm even using outside of our race as an example is because they know because they see it more from them than they do from us, even though we're the ones that are telling them the very thing that you just said. So that's why it makes no sense to me. It's not because of the fact that you're wrong. It's because you're right. And it's because they know that you're right. It's exactly why they won't listen to you.
And not
that's what I'm saying.
Even if it weren't black people, posting the videos and doing all the other stuff, if you're doing it out in public, somebody else is going to see it, and they're going to take that as an opportunity to go, "Oh, look, there's a black person acting a fool, just like I thought. You know what? Let me post this on my website and then make sure it gets to all the." There was a black woman that said something. It made the rounds to all the conservative websites. For whatever reason, the white people were really interested in what this black woman had to say about black men. They were talking about it everywhere. Usually when something goes viral, it's like black viral, I call it. But for whatever reason, there are certain things that black people either do or say, or if somebody catches the moment, and then it literally, goes outside of what, because it's easier if we contain it and then we deal with it within our group. But that's not always happening. And it's happening enough.
You know what? No, let's ask the real question. As a matter of fact, hold on. Shay Sade, let me ask you a question. Maybe you can give me clarity here. Why is it that when black men are sitting here having a conversation that is on the best interest of heart when it comes to black women, why are they so hell-bent on being rebellious to the very thing that they know that would benefit them more greatly in the long term? Are they so stuck on the immediate benefit of getting the satisfaction that they want right now, as opposed to the long-term benefit that would benefit them later on when it comes to future? Because for some reason, whenever we actually try to step up and be leaders when it comes to protecting their image, protecting their well-being, and protecting their own protection, because mind you and by, if they don't sit there and change the image and they don't listen to us and they do start traveling or they do start going to other places and we continue to allow this image to get more and more and more and more and more in control and become more and more of a staple of pattern recognition in regards to them, don't you think that they won't be as easily as protected? Don't you think they might become bigger targets? Why is it that they're not looking at the long term when we're sitting here as black men trying to protect them on their own behalf,
And for some reason, they're sitting here trying to tell us, oh, this isn't that much of a big deal. That very same mindset is what allowed Derek Jackson to become a megastar when it came to us telling Black women day in and day out for the last couple of years not to trust that man. But yet almost half the population of Black land listened to everything that Derek Jackson, and he cheated on his wife, abused his wife, did everything under the sun to his wife. And yet for some reason, Black women still listen to this man, even though he warned him. Why is it that women will not listen when we're genuinely trying to be there for them and help them, like they claim that we should be as Black leaders?
Okay,
that was a lot. That's a lot to unpack. We'll be here all day trying to unpack that.
Yeah, really quick. I do have only just a few more minutes, and I'll have to wrap up, guys. Here, if you're here, like, share, subscribe, show support on the Cash App, Super Chat, Venmo, Shay Sade. If you like what's going on here, be sure to support your favorite content creators and support those who are trying to do something positive. Shout out to you, Jamari, with the 10. It says this story reminds me of the trans woman who removed their top of the White House around children to celebrate Pride Month. They later apologized for it. This act harms their image and bend biases. Absolutely agree. Again, guys, Cash App, Venmo, Shay Sade, also Super Chats. I'll be sure to acknowledge and read all Super Chats. Okay, so I'll try to answer this, and I'll have to wrap this up pretty soon because I have a...
I know it's a tough question. I'm sorry.
No, well, for me, I don't even know that it's tough. I mean,
it is.
How you look at it. I think there's a couple of things going on that are driving the psychology, but I think ultimately it goes down to there is a rebellious spirit, like just plain and simple, that exists. And I mean, I don't want to get too down to the nitty gritty, but yeah, I think there's a rebellious spirit in Black women that has just kind of taking on its life of its own. We can debate as to why. There's obviously some self-hatred that's gone on there. You mix in the distrust of men to further put a divide there. You mix in, like I said, just the rebellion and the constant need to try to fight against boundaries and laws that have been clearly established since the beginning of time. And you just kind of have what you have now, this whole system. So I don't know, like I can't necessarily say I fully understand the entire crux of it, but to me, when something is so illogical, like when you have women who are like, they're complaining that they're drowning, and then you come by in a ship and you have a lifesaver and you're like, hey, get in the ship. And they're like, no, I don't need your help. But they continue to drown. It's like, clearly there's something else going on here. Clearly this is not just a logic thing. Clearly there's something else that is keeping you wanting to fall and wanting to like destroy yourself, even though there are all these options available for you to get help. And so I think that's really what I think is going on. There was a big rebellious spirit, and we see it manifested in these natural ways, right? Just not wanting to abide by certain laws sometimes, like literally having this sense of entitlement. Like you guys saw that video of I don't know the whole context, but it was a Black woman who just like snatched a microphone out of a woman's hand. It's just like, this is my time. This is my time. I'm
yeah, at the graduation.
Yeah, and just like all these times where Black women are like, there's codes of conduct that are in place to help try to keep society functioning. And there's this need to always try to push the boundaries and push the lines and wanting to question why this and why that. And it's like, some of it just really comes out of rebellion. I know.
And this is, and I'm sorry, Chet, I'm sorry for cutting you off. This is the perfect example of why I asked the question, though. I asked the question because Miss D Dissects just came in, and whether you want to call it a defense or not, she tried to justify the actions of it simply as not being that much of a big idea. Any woman and all the men here who have a competent relationship with the woman understand where I'm coming from when I say this. Any man that's truly the authority of a relationship or in a household knows that when he tells a woman something, they're just going to look at you and be like, oh, well, if that's what he wants, if he thinks that it'll be better, I'll just do it. Okay. They'll listen is what I'm saying. So, and they'll just simply act on it simply because they know, and any woman that's, especially married women that are in a good, healthy relationship with their man, know that when they listen, it usually benefits them later, not now. So when I sit here, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I know you're a married woman, and I know you've had moments where your husband has probably just directly told you to do something. You didn't understand why, but you did it anyway, and you didn't see the benefit to it until maybe a couple of months. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And even to this
So-
day, there are things that he sees, the way that he looks at life, where it's like, I may not even agree or like it, but I respect, okay, this is my husband. I believe in headship. I believe in spiritual headship. So there's going to be certain things God reveals to him. And as a way of trusting God, I submit to my husband. That's what
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm explaining. That's exactly why I'm saying it. And so when I hear women like this go completely against what I'm saying and they just rebel simply because of how they feel in the immediate and they fight on it and they die on that hill, they don't even realize that they're setting themselves up for failure. The decisions you make right now will affect you 10 years from now. They're thinking about how I feel right now, not how they feel 10 years from now.
Listen, I have actually the pastors at my church. They're going to be celebrating, I think, 39 years. They did premarital for me and my husband, and I've talked exclusively with the pastor's wife, and she's a very, very successful woman. She's worked in corporate for almost 40 years, and God has blessed her. She's made a lot of money. She's been a big, huge benefit to the household, and like under a certain context, she could take the feminist approach and be like, oh, well, I'm making the money, because she's a major breadwinner, right? Be like, oh, I'm making the money, therefore I should be calling the shots. I should be calling the rules, because she's the one that, largely brings in the income. Her husband is a man of God. He runs a church, but she brings in the income. And we've had so many conversations about how she views actually her husband's wisdom and insight as integral to her success in the business realm and as integral to the success of the overall family. And it's been so interesting for me to hear her perspective, because I'm like, we live in a world where women who make more money than men want to use it as a reason to try to control and usurp their authority in relationships. And here's a woman who, by certain standards, should have the reason to call all the shots, and she doesn't. She listens to her husband. She said her husband is always praying for her before she goes into sales calls, different things. And she's like, I would not be nearly as successful as it was if it wasn't for my husband's wisdom. And so I say that because I think that's a prime example of you saying women don't recognize how when they turn away the help that they need and they turn away the provision and the protection and the wisdom that men make, even if he's not making the money, it's not like all guys bring to the table are money. Even if he's not bringing in the money, there are other things, other valuable attributes that men bring. Women don't understand how they can they can not only harm themselves, but they can hinder themselves from receiving blessings and goodness when they don't listen to the men that are in their life.
Well, that's because women have been trained to only see tangible benefits from a man and not the intangible benefits. And that's the reason why I asked you, because I know you're a married woman, and I know you could give perspective in a way that most single women just cannot. So, at this point, I just believe that, and I'm gonna say this right now on record, I honestly believe that the things that we say to a woman, whether it be, when it comes to advice and when it comes to protection, Black women do not view it as protection. They view it as control. They view it as usurping male patriarchy, dominance, or some form of misogyny. It has been put into their heads that what we're saying is extremist ideology and views, and that we're coming off kilter and from a left perspective. I'm not thinking about you twerking on the goddamn Ghanaian slave ship right now. I'm thinking about the fact that you just did it. It went viral. And the fact that I know that if you can go viral for that, I highly doubt in another Black woman's mind that's going to come to Africa, they wouldn't attempt to do the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. They probably they're going to try to, because women want attention, especially in this era when there's less marriages. Women still want male attention. They will lie and they will say that's not true. We're doing it for ourselves. But of course, you're going to see more women attempt to do dumb stuff like that because they saw that other women were able to do it and get away with it, seemingly. This is why,
as I said earlier, I believe that twerking deal was an act of sabotage towards reparations. Somebody staged that. I just don't think that those women just did that on their own. They knew full well what they were doing. All of them are grown women, and they were very aware of what they were doing. That said, I think that as a people, we're going to we have some real harsh days ahead. Some real hard days ahead. There's going to. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news or doom and gloom, But I think that we as a people are going to say encounter some unjust suffering, and there's going to be a thinning of the herd, and our women are going to be forced to respect us due to the outside elements that attack us as a people. You saw the sister Owens in Florida, how she was just gunned down, at that white woman's doorstep. She was a single mother. More of that is to come. And if black women don't straighten up and get some God consciousness, and get back to basics, they're going to say encounter a great deal of harsh suffering ahead. And the men too, our community as a whole.
Yeah, I don't disagree. This is going to be another live, but I actually tweeted about this a few days ago too, where it's like, I think it's highly irresponsible to really try to push swirling as the best option at the same time that white supremacy is documentedly on the rise. Largely just in response to what many white Americans who fear a declining birth rate and things of that nature. I'm like, it's incredibly dangerous to promote that as a best option without also talking about all these other variables that need to be taken into consideration.
I mean, now, hold on now, Shay Sade. Don't you know that in a lot of black women's mind that being a concubine to a white man is a better option than being married to a black man? I was like, we got to understand a good, see, with this whole divestment thing, when it comes to this whole image, it doesn't. First off, it's not even a movement. It's been an entire lifestyle since slavery. White men have always had access to our black women.
That's true.
I don't know why people are. As a matter of fact, let's go even further. Since they want to call women like you, Shay Sade, a mammy, do they even know what the definition of a mammy is? It's a black woman that takes care of white men and white people's children. So you've always been at their disposal. They've always had access to you. You neglected your own kids while you raised theirs. You got paid to do it. I was like, it was a literal job for you, and you taught your daughters.
No, they weren't paid. Not during the antebellum slave period. It was they did it for free.
No, I'm talking about after. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I should say you did it for free and you got paid.
Unfortunately, it was common practice for the black slave woman to negate and ignore the uprearing of her kids, for the master's children.
Right, exactly, and you're right, Herc. My bad. I should have been more specific there. But what I'm saying is that this is not a movement. You've been doing this is like, I agree. So when I hear these women sit here and they talk about promoting this swirl lifestyle, this, that, and the third, newsflash: mulatto children were enslaved too.
Yeah, they were their own class, right?
Oh yeah,
it's like they were literally their own class. Like, as a matter of fact, mulatto girls, if we want to sit here and do a history lesson, mulatto girls, because they were able to be so racially ambiguous, they were used to marry into other powerful white families.
Yeah, and mulatto girls were also the primary. If you look at the actual slave, I don't want to get too tangent, but the slave black, quote unquote, black slave owners, a big portion of them were mulatto girls who had, were the result of white, slave owners, white male slave owners, and slaves, and they would inherit, sometimes the slavery or whatever from the parent.
The Blue Vein Society.
Right. Exactly. And that's of course like a small port. I'm not saying that was overwhelming the majority of just
right. That was homegrown American style. Right. Yeah.
But anyways, guys, I just have to wrap this up. If you guys want to have any last words, again, shout out to you, Gregory Scotland with the 20. It says, "What makes the American black woman so worthy of a productive American black men? More good black women should support black men's expansion of options, both SSBM or Passport Brothers." Y'all know I support you guys going where there's good options. I'm never going to tell somebody to date or marry a prostitute just for quote unquote good measure. Like that'd be horrible. So definitely go where there's actually wives. Like, don't marry a whore. You want to marry a wife, right? I always support that. It has
Well,
way
Me
back.
too. I got something to say. I don't think the twerking of the women in our community is not gonna stop. I don't see other coaches and women twerking. So if they want to keep this up, go ahead. You can't tell them nothing. That's why I call them cum dancers anyway. So it's just what it is. So that's
Ouch.
all to say. But I know I'm gonna get some backlash of it. So it's just what it is. So and then they sit there and get mad, had a bunch of kids by different men because they chose to sleep around being 304s and stuff. And I seen a woman just who also a porn star just had walked around butt naked in the mom like why nobody ain't calling this stuff out? I seen the video of it on
Did you
World
call
Star
it
Hunt.
out? Oh,
I I did, but guess who got mad at me? Black women.
oh, okay. Well, uh, to in our sister's defense, first of all, I'm married to a black woman. I have a black daughter. I've taught my daughter uh, the to the best of my ability, the best mannerisms, behavior, and ethics. And I pray that she grows up to marry. Well, actually, she's a grown woman. I shouldn't say grow up. She's already. But I pray that her choice is a black man. But the thing is that the way society is today, with the say intense hatred that we as a people have for one another, and I think that's kind of, I think that's actually been staged too. I think this false gender war, it's been say developed and it's being pushed on us, and so many people are taking the bait, and it's pathetic, and it's dangerous. That said, you know um, I think that I don't want to say, I don't want to paint every black woman with the same broad brush, because I have black women in my household, and I'm sure you brothers and have good black women in your household, and we don't
Yes,
want to
sir.
paint all our sisters with that broad brush. There are some good, wholesome, sweet, wonderful black American, foundational black American women, ADOS women, that are still marriageable, lovable, and we need to seek them out too. I don't think the answer is running abroad, running across the seas, looking for foreigners. I just don't. I mean, if that's your thing, that's okay. That's you. You do it. But the thing is, I think that there are good, homegrown, wholesome Black American women, church-going women, good God-fearing women that are right here that we may be overlooking, and my daughter being one of them. That are right here. And that's it. I'm gonna land my plane on that.
All right.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. My closing remarks are this: understand that whenever something like this happens, I don't know who the guy who just spoke was. I think he said like they knew what they were doing and stuff. I think they knew, they just didn't care and stuff like that. And the reason why we have to smack this stuff down with the force of God is because it harms the black women and girls in our life, albeit inadvertently, but
I
harms them
agree. I
nonetheless.
agree.
Right,
I agree
right,
100%.
exactly.
Hmm.
So my sister, my auntie, my little cousins that
That's
just
right.
came to visit a couple weeks ago, this stuff harms them.
That's
Even
true.
if it's indirectly, you have to smack this stuff down with the force of God. Unpopular opinion, part of protection is smacking stuff down with the force of God. That way it doesn't affect the people that you love.
Right.
Because the smart guy knows the problem that you ignored yesterday will be
Mm.
at your doorstep tomorrow.
Speak on it.
So listen, y'all, for any black women who were like D-dissects in the chat, whether you've made yourself known, unknown, understand this. You don't have to like the way that this stuff is being slapped down, but the fact remains is it needs to be slapped down, because whether you see it or not, long term, this is affecting you. It's butterfly effect. Go look it up. When we talked about this earlier, the social image of Black women and girls and how it's been perceived in society and how it's been portrayed in society, stuff like this has been at the forefront. And to what y'all were saying about that divestment movement, who's the main man who put that sort of image out there about Black women? It's white dudes. So
Didn't
just
know.
for those
Yep,
Black
yes
women
it
in the
is.
chat who choose to make themselves known or unknown, who are watching this now or later, understand that. Do not forget. I say this all the time. Do not forget who white people are.
Right.
Because they're gonna be white people every time. They're gonna show you.
That's
They're
right.
gonna remind you every single
That
time.
evil, that evil, wicked behavior came from somewhere.
Go ahead.
My
Yeah.
last thing to say on that is this will be my last final thing. By the way, thank you, Shay. Guys on the panel, great conversation. Thank you, Kevin. Everybody else, awesome. Thank you. Last thing I want to say is, Black women, I would honestly say that we men on this panel right now, we love you the most. I have a little sister. I have a mother. I have a cousin with 3 kids.
That's right.
I am willing to fight and die for them. I'm willing to give it everything I have. And the reason why is because they're the generation after me. I'm 18 years older than my sister. She's young enough to be my daughter. You see what I'm saying? Like, I need you to really understand that we're not coming from a place of maliciousness. We're coming from a place of pure, unadulterated, unconditional love. You just hate the way that we do it. Newsflash: a captain, a manager, a leader of a team is never gonna give you instructions the way that you want to hear it every time. That's impossible. If I'm a captain of a ship and I'm 5, 10, 15 miles away out in open sea, and I'm yelling at you to do what I need you to be so we can be all hands on deck, and you don't like it, but it will save your goddamn life, you do what the fuck needs to be done. I'm not your friend. Like, last time I checked, I'm not your friend. I'm not your lover. I'm not your husband. I'm damn sure I'm not your little side nigga or whatever. I am a leader. Leaders aren't designed to make you happy. Leaders are designed to make you happy after you've done what the hell they told you to do. You don't benefit up front. You benefit after the sacrifice is made. Being a good man, being a good leader is a very thankless job. You think I want to sit here and tell you on the internet how much of an ass you acted? You think I want to sit here and wake up and I see you twerking on your ancestors' graves? You think I want to sit here? You think I want to see images of you being naked with your vagina out in the open in the middle of a mall? You think I want to sit here and see this image and you want me to sit here and clap 5 with it and say, yes, bitch, yes, queen, slay, and all this other crazy stuff and talk about liberation? You're not liberated. You're putting yourself in a bigger box of what we're going to do with you. You are being looked at as the world's concubine. My sister grows up, and when she turns 18 years, the very first thing a boy may say to her, both in her race and out it, is, how much does it cost? You need to think for just one moment that would damn the whole gender war this, damn the whole gender war that. Okay, black men are the enemy, black women. For once in your life, can you listen to what I'm saying? Because this doesn't sound like an enemy to you. This sounds like a man who fucking loves you.
Well, and I'll say this too, just for clarity, because it actually reminded me of the situation. I remember, it was some situation where I was in San Francisco, and one of the churches I was at the time, very, very, very diverse. You know, you had obviously black woman, white men, Mexican, like just, you know, very diverse scenario. And so oftentimes I would go out, hanging out in groups to be filled with diversity. A few interracial couples came from that, a few Black couples. But there was this one particular time I was in the city hanging out with a group of people, and something happened. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something happened where I was walking to the store, and I was with one of my friends who was a part of the group, happened to be a Mexican guy. And we were like walking to the store, I think to get something on the way to kind of meet with the rest of the group. We're walking and somebody comes up to him and he's like, "How much?" And I'm like, "What?" Like, I'm literally in like a turtleneck. I'm like a freaking turtleneck and some boot. Like, there's no skin is showing. My breasts aren't out, nothing. He literally walks up to my friend and is just like, "How much?" And he's like, "Oh no, like it's not one of those things." Like I said, there was nothing about what we were doing. There was nothing about what was going on that looked even remotely sexual. We were literally wanting to like grab something at a store. But I remember like that situation being like, this is so strange. But going back to your point of perception, all those things really do make a difference. And I like I said, I've never really portrayed myself like in a very, very.
I'm sorry that happened to you, sister.
Yeah, I mean it. Yeah, I mean I lived. It's just, you know, it is what it is. It comes with the territory. But I'm saying that to say, and again, I at the time was with an Hispanic guy. You know what I mean? Like it was a few minutes, but it was just a quick scenario, because again, you have diversity. Sometimes we'll go out there and be like, "Oh, well, if I'm with this kind of person, that kind of person, you're going to avoid it." And it's like, it don't matter who you're with. You can be in a group of friends. In that situation, we were a group of friends walking to the store. You could be with the whitest dude out there. It don't matter. Like, you're still perceived as a Black woman. And so, you know, I didn't internalize it too much. I just thought it was really strange. And I think at the time I was like right out of high school, was younger. So I don't think I really fully understood.
Right.
But after, I think, just more and more, just learning more and understanding the racial dynamics and perception, I was like, man, like that's crazy, you know? So when we have these conversations and you're talking about somebody asking you literally how much, I'm like, no, literally that happens. Literally, I've had that happen to me in a turtleneck, by the way.
And that's exactly why I'm saying it. I'm saying it because I know I'm a fucking man. Men know. See, it's crazy. Women don't listen to advice about men when they tell it to other men, and I have no idea why. I am a man telling you, sister, please do not do this, and you cannot protect what you cannot control.
Right.
It's just that simple. You won't let me control you, so I can protect you. And thus, when you hanging out with Enrique and somebody see, oh damn, she got nice legs, she got mama, all right. Well, shit.
Totally. And I've had conversations with my husband about this, where it's just like how women and men, how we perceive things differently, and how sometimes when in our ignorance, we can put ourselves in this situation. Now in retrospect, I'm like, should I? It was innocent going to a store, like, okay, we're gonna go here for a second, but I'm like, in retrospect, was that the best decision? Maybe not. Maybe it'd been like, hey, you guys go and grab stuff. I'm just gonna stay here with the rest of the group. You know what I mean? But at that time, it's just like when you're kind of like really, you don't really fully understand, and that's why it's important to listen to men in their community, and it's important to have, I think, those voices, because not men.
Yeah, right. Well, you know when.
No. And I was just saying situational awareness. I just don't think women have that as much as men. I think partially because the way
that's true
perceived, we don't have that sense. So we need men to tell us, hey, don't do that. Hey, don't put yourself in that situation. Hey, don't, you know what I mean?
Don't sit in the chair with your legs open. You know, go in the back room, things like that. My mother used to always tell my sisters. I come from a big family, of nine siblings. And my mom used to always tell my sisters, look, hey, okay, don't be in men's face. Okay. You can't go out and, you know, if you go out in the street to play, you know, make sure you got a pair of shorts on under your skirt. You know, you can't do what men do. You know, you have to basically know your place as a girl. Women used to teach their daughters that, you know, and I don't know what happened well, I mean, it's a different time, you know, we're a broken community. It's so many reasons, you know, why that took place. But the thing is that it was like basic, say, life survival skills that young women practice, or when they actually, there was actually an ethic. There was actually ethics, and women, they would sit with their legs crossed. I mean, these are old teachings. We need to start back. We need to start, implementing those teachings back again. Um, and
Well, if you
that's
have
that's what
complete
we
families, you're going to get that. If you don't,
right.
then you're not going to see that.
That's true.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and close up real quick. So, just by the way, I know we use the word concubine quite a bit, but concubines actually get benefits, and the way the women are behaving with some of these men, that they're not getting any benefits. They're just getting used. The sex toys are getting tossed aside like used tissue paper. So that's what's happening with a lot of women who are behaving in a way
So you're
that's
saying even concubine is too generous?
yeah, it's way too generous. And then the other thing too is, so there's two communities. One that's where people are married, husband, husband and fathers, wives and mothers, and the children up underneath that construct, and they're doing relatively well or pretty well for themselves. That's what a community looks like, and we have a small group of people who actually fit that description. And when you look at the overall marriage rate, 30% for black men and black women, according to the U.S. Census, then that's still very low. It's actually the lowest of all the racial groups. And then on top of that, what we learn from that is that that is an untenable situation, meaning that 30% of the people cannot carry the rest of the group. You need at least 70 to 80% of your people married in a community, doing what they're supposed to do, and being constructive, productive, and positive, and producing children for the next generation, so that way they can take your place. That is not happening right now, and it's not going to happen if we don't get the numbers we're supposed to get. And you can't do it twerking on top of Elmina Cassidy. It ain't going to happen.
Mm.
And so we can get on the men too, the ones who are irresponsible and all over the place with their spermatozoa and making kids that they're not refusing to take care of. Dr. Umar at the top of the list. Then you know what? You can't get there. To success doing that as well. And there's a quote that likes to where we are is two separate communities, one productive, one chaotic and dysfunctional. And if you're not part of the productive community, you're excommunicated to the chaotic and dysfunctional community. And that's the one that you don't want to be a part of. And
Brother Kevin, can you give us one solution that we could implement to turn some of that around?
yes, marriage.
Okay,
Produce the kids in marriage and raise them in marriage to adulthood. In
gotcha.
stable two-parent homes. It's that simple.
Thank you, sir.
If we're not going to do that, then none of this stuff is going to change. And you hear women talk about being disrespectful. So basically, that whole quote, a lot of black women get it from that. I don't know. I think it was on a Beyonce album where Malcolm
Should we
X
bring
says,
should we bring shotgun weddings back in
women are going to
as a part of the community?
nope. Women are going to get married if they want to get married, and not only that, if
No, 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 no shot. So no shotgun weddings.
nope. Only
Come on, man. Come on.
women
I'm trying to make it happen here.
no, women still have to qualify for marriage, and men still have
That's
to be
true.
great husbands and fathers. So women still have to qualify for a good husband and father. All right, but so there's a quote that's floating around that got real popular, I think, a few years back off of Beyonce album, and a lot of black women were quoting that, and they were making a big deal about it, and they were talking about how black women are the most unprotected, disrespected, and and all of that stuff, the most of all the bad things in America. That actually comes from Malcolm X. 1964 speech where he talked, and if you're familiar with Malcolm X, you'll know that comes from that the speech within the context of that speech where he's talking about it's the who taught you to hate yourself speech. That's part of the context. Then he goes on and talks about how black men are required to do anything and everything they're supposed to do in order to protect their women. But what he was also talking about was a specific subset of women that literally were aligned with the men. Right?
Yeah.
So you can't be screaming for protection, and direction, and leadership, and all this other stuff if you're not going to align with the men in a way that affords them the opportunity, the capability, and the authority in order to make all of that stuff happen. So that when you're under that umbrella of protection,
Right.
that's how that works. You have to do your part. So again, back to Dr. Umar, that's why he's getting a lot of heat because he's got a long task list of things for men to do and not and zero for whatever for the women. The women can just run loose, wild and free, and twerk all over the place and make babies everywhere. And that's not how this is going to work. So I'll
Well-
kind of close out with that. But good conversation, good discussion, and hopefully, and you know, people were listening, and stuff like this gets out. And we're not, you know, specifically attacking anybody, but we're talking to the people through the avatars, out to the audience. And you know, we like the work that you're doing, so keep it up, and we appreciate your effort. It is truly needed, Ms. Shay, and you're a gem in a minefield of dangerous things. But you know,
How she
keep
deals
doing
with
the work out here.
All right.
We appreciate you.
This is great, guys. I have got to go because I do need to get to dinner, and hubby just got here, so I do need to head
We
out.
appreciate you, sister.
I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, you guys. Be sure to like on the way out, show some love. If you want on the Cash App or Venmo for some overtime I put on today. This stream went a lot longer than usual, but I did want to make sure I had a conversation with you guys. So if you appreciated it, again, hashtag, you can find me on Cash App or Venmo Shay Sade. Be sure to support your favorite content creators. Get the message out to any other lovely ladies out there who you think may find this helpful. And, you know, ultimately, it's good to have these conversations. And I think it's also important that the lovely ladies out there know that there's another way of doing things. As I mentioned before, you're going to be told as a Black woman that you're a whore, you're a prostitute, and that's your lineage. And you're going to continue to see this image pushed about you. And you're going to continue to see people who act that way be promoted. That is not who you are. That's not who God created you to be. God created you to be a vessel of wisdom, a benefit to your community, a benefit to society, to your family. That's who you can be if you allow God to cleanse you of any rebellious spirit, to cleanse you of these lies, and to learn his ways. That's exactly who you could be. But if you don't listen, if you don't listen to the men that God has put in your life, if you don't listen to wisdom, then you're going to continue to see these kind of situations happen. And then unfortunately, you will reap the results of those actions. The laws of reaping and sowing are always at play. You know, whatever goes up goes down. So if you engage in behavior that's disrespectful and dishonoring to yourself, you will eventually be dishonored and disrespected, because that's the way you portrayed yourself. And so our hope is just to let you know that you don't have to be this image that's being portrayed about you, but also know that when you engage in this kind of behavior, it ultimately harms you. And it ultimately harms your offspring. It harms those that you have influence over. That's the power that women have. Women have the power to help establish homes and build up communities and literally shape culture. We have so much power to do good, and yet we have so much power to do evil. And so when we act with a rebellious spirit, and when we disrespect ourselves, we harm not only ourselves, but those that we have influence over. And that's what we are hoping to stop. So anyways, I thank you guys for being here. Again, like, share, subscribe, hit some love on the Cash App, Super Chat, Venmo if you guys like this and want to support this content. And stay tuned for other upcoming content. Thank you guys so much for being here. And yeah, check out the video I did on Proverbs 31 that breaks down a lot about being a virtuous woman, being a virtuous wife, what it truly means to be a Christ follower, what it truly means to be a godly woman. There's so much out there, and there's so much benefit of living that way of life. So I did a live about that a couple of days ago. Check that out for those of you guys who want a little bit more insight into that. And stay tuned. And thank you so much for hanging out. We will talk later. And peace.